We need a motion to open the meeting.
I'll motion to open the meeting.
In at 7:45. A second,
Seconded.
Bill? All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, I'd like to welcome you to the March 4th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Tom Wakefield. To my immediate right is alternate Bill Dunn. To my immediate left is Michael Wood, Daniel McDonald, Kathy Franson, and the secretary is Julie House. And we've got a small agenda tonight, so we'll get right to it. The first thing on the agenda is 441 Main Street, and this is regarding the action request regarding compliance with the amended decision, and it looks like we've got a few people here. I see Larry's here. Where are we at?
Yeah, for the record, I'm Greg Halladina. here on
Would you
behalf of
spell that for me?
Haladyna.
And that's Greg?
Yes.
Thank you.
And where we're at on this right now is, we were asked at the last meeting, and it's incorporated into the amended special permit, that we were gonna be given 30 days to formulate a plan to deal with the setback problem for building B105.
Yep.
That's the one that's, needs to be brought into compliance, to be 15 feet away from the setback. It's currently 10. We've looked at a few options. We've given this a lot of thought, and Mr. Harper has made some inquiries with National Grid, who is presumed or assumed to be the owner of that right-of-way. And they have declined to enter into any agreement to sell what their interest might be in it. Apparently, there's some sort of a moratorium on conveying property with them. So it looks like acquiring additional land along that adjacent parcel
To the
owned by
left.
National Grid, presumably,
Yeah.
is not gonna be possible. Another issue we've looked into that might resolve it is to investigate the question of the actual ownership of that right-of-way that National Grid has. Because we're really not certain whether it's just an easement that National Grid has that was acquired years ago from the railroad, or whether they actually own the underlying fee. If they only have an easement for that right-of-way, that would give Mr. Harper ownership up to the middle of the easement, subject to the rights to use the easement, and therefore we would comply with the setback. This is a rather complicated title issue, and we have engaged Attorney Sanford Matathia, who's here with us
Hold on,
tonight.
would you explain that one more time for me, just slowly?
We are not certain, and we're doing an investigation into the title, looking up some of the ancient title records, as to whether or not National Grid actually owns
Was it in fee?
the fee in the right-of-way, or whether they just have easement rights. And it may be if they just have easement rights, we may own the fee to the middle of that easement, and therefore the setback would not be in violation.
Was that a road at one time?
I believe it was a railroad right-of-way, and Attorney Matathia could address that with you as to where he's at and what the possibilities are. But it is something we want to investigate, and I know the Community Trail Committee may have done some investigating into ownership of that way as well. We're just not certain that it is. Everyone's assuming that
Yeah,
National
you know,
Grid
and
owns it.
if the utility doesn't own it in fee, it only has an easement over it, then, and you think that would the abutter have it in fee halfway?
Correct.
And then, so that the easement issued would run with that property, if you will.
Well, the setback issue would go away.
Yeah, I know, I say, if he owned it in fee from his property line to halfway, you think he owns that? If that was the case, he would own that in fee?
That's what we're exploring, and that would seem to address any concerns about that building possibly being constructed too close to what we now believe, or
Yeah,
previously had
gotcha.
believed or assumed to be the property line. And Attorney
That
Matathia.
certainly would be the better of all the solutions.
Yeah, the third solution that we've looked into, and, you know, Larry Ogden has looked into it, is, you know, removing 5 feet from the building. That obviously would cost a fair amount of money. It could be done, but it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to put money to use to remove 5 feet from a building, where there's really no need to do it. There's no complaints from anyone. it just seems a poor use of funds. What we have also started to explore is whether, rather than using money to remove 5 feet of the building, assuming we can't make a determination as to ownership of the National Grid easement, we would consider, and we'd like to discuss with the board what your feelings are about using money to perhaps construct some sort of a rest area, a shaded rest area, along what's contemplated to be the bike path. I mean, we could deal with the Community Trail Committee, we could give easements along what we own, perhaps use the existing building and incorporate
I think it's pretty clear, though, and I'd have to look up my notes, and you probably know better than I do, but I have them here, but the fact that the use of the property, or a non-conforming use, when it's transferred to another non-conforming use equal to or less than, it specifically states in one of the laws there that you can't get a variance. So I'm not sure, so you're sort of like swapping, trying to do a swap type thing, say, hey, look, if the town would accept the location, we would do X, Y type of thing.
Well, there
That's what
may
you're talking-
be another way, or there may be alternatives to getting this building into compliance. As I've told you, and perhaps the board may not have agreed, but we have suggested and taken the position that the location of that building, was shown on a plan that was approved. And if a finding could be made that, in fact, that is the case, and it was constructed
Now,
appropriately.
I think, let me just tell you, and I don't have it here, I think I gave it to Julie, but the application that was submitted to the building inspector for a general permit, I think it was called, didn't have that building on there at all. So and as I previously stated, and I don't want to be doing all the talking, but anyways, I've worked in towns where what you're talking about, in the last 2 towns that I worked in, it had that language in the ordinance that said that, if all buildings were, say, 5 feet from the line, even though the setbacks were 10 or 15, you could line them up. This particular ordinance doesn't have that. And like I said, on the permit application, the one that was submitted, the building isn't even on there. So I'm not sure that argument carries any
We went
weight.
over it, obviously, and we believed it was shown on the plan that was approved.
I can tell you.
Well, there's a couple approvals.
Yeah, but on the building permit, it's not on there. It's not on, there's no building on that plan.
The other thing would be is if there's a building permit with that size building on the building permit, you probably have a case.
It's not on there.
That's-
There's
you
no
know,
building permit for that building.
When we went back and investigated the building permits, the
Julie,
building
do you
permit
have
said
that?
a general building
file?
roof inside,
Who has it?
whatever, but I don't ever remember seeing anything that had that building on it. If it did,
Wasn't it to repair existing buildings?
I think what was contemplated was a
building.
relocation of some of those existing 3 buildings from one area to the other.
But the permit that we had, it gave us that night from the Junkins, Rachel Junkins, which was a copy of our permit, and it showed the site plan that was submitted for the general permit, and there was a blank there. There was no building there. We're gonna look in the file and see if it's there, but there was never any site plan submitted to the building inspector for that building, nor was there a permit issued for the same, so it's,
Well, I guess the bottom line is, we'd like to explore if there are some options for
yeah,
addressing
I
it.
don't,
As to that
this is a
building
great
deal-
idea, but this issue's been on the table since October.
Well, I can also tell you that it's something that, is likely gonna be reviewed in court. I mean, we reviewed our
That's right.
decision we received from you on the amended special permit.
Yeah.
You're aware, that, we disagree with the findings that
Yeah.
the uses that you're seeking to terminate were in violation of the special permit we had. At this point, we probably couldn't even get our tenants who have lease rights to do what you've asked us to do in the timeframe specified. We also
Well,
have
but,
some-
and that's okay, because then the remedy, this isn't the one. No, it's actually got the permit. It's got the permit. It's a different color. No, it's actually the permit, the building permit.
Has a permit statement to it.
Yeah, it has a building permit statement to it. That's your prerogative, but I think clearly, as I stated, the laws that I had backed at the time, I think we're on pretty firm ground as to what we need to do, and I think that what those uses in there far exceed the uses that were there, and they need to be, I assume they're not out of there. As of today, I know the boats are still there, I went by today, the boats are still there. There's no attempt, I know that the floats are still there, I've had communication with the Conservation Commission, those aren't there, they were ordered to take those out in October, and they're not there. I mean, they're still there, what's the reason they're still there?
Well, again, another issue we have is that we necessarily don't agree that this board has the authority to use the process of compelling us to remove the tenants by
Oh.
imposing fines. We just don't believe that process is necessarily in
Okay,
accordance with the statute.
well,
And-
be that as it may, then you're forewarned tonight, then, that the fines would be starting tomorrow, for, I don't know, there's 4 or 5 of them. And also, I think that probably we're gonna have to instruct the building inspector to stop all work down there, because part of the process of working in town is being in compliance. And if you're not in compliance with a special permit, then all work will probably have to cease totally. So, that's what we're gonna have to ask the inspector to do, if the, number one, you haven't made attempts to come in compliance with a cease and desist. And I told you, at the time, I thought we had the authority, the board had the authority to do cease and desist versus recall, because we didn't want to have you tied up for 2 years. So I thought we were given, and at the time, I thought that the board was being pretty generous to allow that to happen, but obviously, we have a difference of opinion. So then the board's gonna have to instruct the building inspector to cease all work on the project until it comes in compliance, because the permits are all predicated. There's actually a sign-off sheet that gets signed off by all the town entities, and that means that you're in compliance. Well, now that you haven't come in compliance with the amended special permit, you'd be in non-compliance, so I think that,
Yeah, I thought the last meeting, I thought that we had agreement that you know, a mutual agreement that, yeah, we were gonna take that to heart and we were gonna have those people either remove. I mean, that was the feeling that I got, and now you're telling us basically, no.
Well, first of
We're
all,
gonna take you to court and go ahead and impose the $300 a day.
well, first of all, we couldn't comply with that by the time frame today anyway. You couldn't remove those boats in a timely manner.
hold on. Why couldn't you do it? No, let me just, before you answer, let me just tell you that I've had boats for probably 30 years, and I have one right now that's 29-footer, okay? It's sitting on blocks and it's shrink wrap in a place. So, you know, I know what it takes to move boats. So, if you're, you know, don't tell me those boats couldn't be moved, because that's a false statement, okay? I happen to know for absolute fact what it takes to move a boat.
Well, this also presumes that you have a tenant who has rights,
Well-
who's willingly gonna say, okay, fine, I'll just remove them.
Well, yeah,
I
but,
mean,
but the point is, he's in violation, so it's I don't know why they even were there. You see, I mean, this, you see, you came in late in the game, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but as far as late in the discussion, we've been talking about this since October. You know, Mr. Harper knew in October that these things were in violation. And it dragged on because it dragged on, and the way, you know, the way processes are sometimes, it does drag on. And so it wasn't just the last meeting that we had on January 17th, I think? Is that the meeting? Is that the date?
Yes.
What-
No,
February 4th?
well, but.
No, I think it was January
January
17th.
It was the special meeting.
Yeah, there was a special meeting, that was a meeting that we went over that, wasn't it? And we went all over that stuff that.
That was the last meeting when you voted on the.
That's right, yeah.
Yes.
So,
So
but,
the alternative was either to shut you down for 2 years.
yeah, exactly.
Or to give you the 45 days to try and comply
Yeah.
with the
So
rules.
you're telling us that you never had no intentions of complying?
Well, we hadn't received your decision. There's other issues in the decision that we are concerned about, and it seems that it's gonna have to be reviewed in court.
Can I go back a step for a
Go
second?
ahead,
You said that you have another attorney here, and he wanted to speak in a minute or whatever. My question is you're talking about possibly getting to the halfway point of that right-of-way, and possibly you could maybe bring this building in compliance. The land's been surveyed, obviously, and he knows that he's 5 feet away, or are you disputing the point that it's not 5 feet, that he might think he owns the middle of that road?
Let me address that if
Go
I
ahead.
may.
Hey, what's your name again, sir?
Yeah, let me give you a card. and
Okay.
you're not gonna write anything out. My name is Sandy Matapia.
Okay, good, yeah, thank you.
Practice lawyer in Worcester, Boston. And we're an old real estate firm. And not necessarily myself, but partners are well-known in the area of real estate title. And I personally have done a number of bike path projects recently. And what I can tell you is that it's very commonplace to have real estate title issues that are not clear in terms of how they sort out for old railroad rights-of-way that are now being converted to a new use like bike paths. And the way this usually comes up is that when a railroad is being put to another use, it needs to go through a federal process of abandonment before a trail is added to a railroad. And in that connection, folks look at whether or not the railroad, when it was originally established, was established on the basis of a right-of-way that had been brought into the railroad company through deeds, such that the railroad owned the fee to the right-of-way, or whether or not, which was very common, the railroad was created pursuant to what are called location statutes, which were adopted by both the state of Massachusetts and the federal government in the mid-1800s. And they authorized rail companies to go out and build railroads in a location that the plans were filed with the county commissioners, and the statute gave the rail company the necessary property rights underlying that railroad, which were only limited to an easement. So, in the instances where the railroad was created pursuant to location statutes and the underlying property interest was an easement, you now fast forward 150 or so years later, and when you go and establish a trail, someone has to take property from the fee owner to the extent that it's not the railroad company. And so these bike path projects very commonly precipitate that issue.
Can I just
And-
ask you one question on the same, before you get any further?
Yeah,
When you're talking about the halfway mark,
yeah.
what was the statute, what was that statute called, the statute?
Derelict fee statute,
A location statute?
yeah.
How would you know that maybe if this is 441 property?
Yes.
And this is the right-of-way, that this right-of-way didn't come from, all of it from the other property? You know, to the left side versus, how would you,
That's correct.
you know, I'm a little confused.
I do know what you're saying.
Okay.
And what you have to do is you have to establish who owned the pieces on either side at the time the right-of-way went through, and whether or not it's one property or more than one property. There's a statute called the derelict fee statute that was put in place in Massachusetts so that exactly the question you asked can be answered with some degree of authority. Because, if you will, this happens with roadways, just as it does with railroads. Someone goes in and creates a roadway, and it's just as possible that roadway is created by taking a fee or acquiring a fee as it is an easement. So this is very common, and the way that real estate title is resolved in these instances is usually through the derelict fee statute, which says if you own land on either side, and someone takes an easement to create one of these roadways or railroads, then your title goes to the center line. And it's fact dependent, but those are the laws that kind of bear on this issue. So just to apply that to this case, when the question came up as to whether or not this building actually violated a setback, 15-foot setback, the question was, where's the line? Is the line at the property line? Is the property line at the sideline of the railroad right-of-way, or does it go to the center line of the railroad right-of-way? And to answer that question, you have to go all the way back to about 1850 and figure out how the railroad came into whatever its property interest was. And I can pull out from my file here an exhibit that comes from your own town community trails group, which apparently took on this issue sometime in the last year or two, hired counsel with CPA funds that were voted by town meeting in order to try and determine whether or not Grid, who now holds and occupies that right-of-way, has fee ownership, so that the town doesn't have to take property from adjoining landowners, it can just do a deal with Grid.
Now, you know,
Can I ask you a question?
hold on,
Yeah.
I just, are they gonna, is a bike path proposed? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, good, okay, yeah, go ahead.
A
Have you
question-
done your own title exam?
Yeah, well, we're in the process of doing it, put it that way. I can tell you that title was done for 441, and we've accessed all those records, and they don't answer this question, which concerns the right-of-way. We're interfacing at the moment with a fellow named Michael Davis from the town, and he's agreed, just as this afternoon, to provide us the title opinion that was rendered to the town on this issue. And I have a link to it, but I haven't reviewed it yet.
Would that necessarily, whether it's, who had it in fee?
Say
Would that
again, sir?
necessarily tell you who had it in fee, or would that be the derelict? And what's the second word on that, derelict?
It's the derelict, it's the derelict
Who's the
fee statute.
Fee
Um,
statute?
It's when the ownership of this right-of-way gets lost over time. Because over the course of the last 150 years, the railroads say that they own it. They act like they own it. No one is saying that, no one
No.
else is saying that they own it.
Yeah.
And so the fee gets lost, if you will, and it becomes derelict. This statute was put on the books in order to say, in these instances, this is where the,
Well,
Ownership
how did National Grid get their polls on that?
this answers that question much better than I could.
Don't those title and easement records exist on the registry of deeds, or they lost the records? I mean,
Well, if you can go all the way back to 1846 and sort through it, yes, you can.
that's what you have to do.
There are some shortcuts.
As you
There-
mentioned when the statute was enacted, or when the rights were created, or the transfer was made, right? So that's the recording.
I'm beginning to compile those deeds and look at them, and what I expect will happen is that our research will match up with counsel that was hired by the town, and that we'll be able to come to a conclusion that we agree upon. And I'm in the throes of that process at the moment.
Can I
Because
ask a
it's not a derelict fee if you could find that, those rights established at that point in time, right? Without
Not
having,
a derelict fee. No,
without having looked.
it was derelict for 150 years,
Okay.
and you're recognizing,
No one's claimed it, or it's in dispute. What
no
makes it
one has,
derelict?
no one has tracked it, okay? So, for example, the deeds of land adjoining the railroad right-of-way would not necessarily say that they're transferring some portion of the railroad right-of-way, or the ownership of it. It gets lost.
Can
Go
I
ahead,
ask a
go ahead.
question?
Right.
So, you people, it looks to me, are currently trying to resolve the setback. It's not stopped. You're not coming in here saying, we're not moving the building. You people tonight are trying to put in place, you're trying to work on. It's not done yet. You're still working on it, you're still trying to find the ownership of the land, so you're currently working on it. What time frame do you think it would take you to come back to us on this one issue, like, I'm just saying, just this one issue.
Mm-hmm.
If you needed more time to come back to us and say, okay, on this one issue, give me another 30 days, give me 60 days, or whatever. It sounds like you might be onto something, I guess. I don't know if it's far-fetched or not,
No,
but whatever.
you're right, but getting back to Greg, were you involved in talking to National Grid?
No, Eric Harper spoke with them directly.
Because what I'm wondering, if they said no, what was the basis? Did they feel that they had fee, you know?
I don't think they rendered an opinion to Eric about what they owned. They indicated to him there's a moratorium where they were holding off on doing any land transactions at that point.
Does someone have to pay taxes on that?
Well, that's what I was just asking
know.
Dan. Who pays taxes on that land?
I can tell you that that doesn't answer the question, but I don't know the answer to your question. It doesn't answer the question who owns it. The assessor might think that someone owns it and taxes it that way, but that doesn't answer the title question.
No, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Because if it's derelict, you know, no one's claiming it, who's paying the taxes on it? I can't imagine
Or
that
is
the town
anybody
is
paying?
just
Yeah.
eating it.
Well,
you know?
National Grid may think they own it, but they may not.
But
I
if
mean,
they're
we
not
don't
paying
know.
taxes on it, or,
Is there a fence up along that property line?
Yes.
Yes, yeah,
Does
there
that
is.
create even if there was an interest in that property, would that create an adverse possession, argument on that right of way or whatever it is?
Well, they use it for a purpose. So to the extent that there are prescriptive rights, it would be to run a railroad or run an electric line. It wouldn't necessarily be fee. We're talking about fee now, as opposed to particular use rights. So,
But what Dan is saying, though, if they've utilized the property for 40 years, wouldn't that then?
20 years, yeah.
Wouldn't that be
Yeah.
adverse possession?
Extinguish your client's rights.
No, not fee. It would give rise to prescriptive easement rights to pass and repass for rail travel or for electrical transmission, but it wouldn't necessarily establish fee.
It would have to be written as such that it didn't establish fee, wouldn't it?
I'm sorry.
Wouldn't it have to be written in the lease agreement that this lease does not give the person the right to utilize this?
You're correct that consent upsets adverse possession.
Yeah, because I'm familiar with,
Yeah.
in Maine, I know how it works in Maine, because
Yes.
I've been involved in that, filing stuff like that.
Yes.
And I also have been involved with the trails besides some property I own, so.
Okay.
Railroad, so I'm familiar with the whole
Okay.
system. So I understand what you're talking about, but.
Good.
Well, I mean, this is what we want. You come in 30 days, you talk about what's happening, you got 60 days to give us an idea. I mean, you know, if that doesn't, 60 days you don't have an answer, you come back and say, hey, look, we're trying, we're almost there, we almost got an answer, and that's all we can have, you know. That's cooperation, that's, I don't know that, what more we can ask for, do you? guys?
No, I mean, if they have a right to that, what do you need? What are we off, 10 feet?
5.
5? You're looking for 5 feet.
How wide is that right away? You know? 50 feet?
Probably 40 or 50 feet.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact dimension.
It's actually variable. It's not a consistent width.
Okay.
It's very variable.
But it's not, well, how about in that 70 feet line, is it 5 feet? I mean, is this, are we all doing this for not, you know what I mean? Is there enough?
But next to the building, it's gotta be 40 to 50 feet wide.
Okay, that's what I mean, yeah,
And when it goes down, it juts back into property on the other side.
okay,
It's like a triangle.
all right.
I mean, I can show you plans of it if you.
No, that's all right, no,
if you
I just wanna make, when you're talking that it's not, 'cause, you know, make sure that,
Yeah, it's wide enough that half of it would create.
that's right,
direct problem.
that's what I'm getting at, yeah, okay.
So
Well-
you need more time to do the
Yeah, I mean, I,
Well, I mean, it's gonna depend on what we get, for example, from the town. I just this afternoon, something came over which could be very helpful, because we could be looking at it the same way, which would be nice. So I'm gonna take a look at that, and I'd be happy to give you a status report.
we could give you 5 minutes to do it right now, if you want.
Yeah.
If you wanna tell us about
Pretty
5.
complicated
We
stuff.
made you wait, we can wait 15 minutes if you.
Employees don't do anything.
Yeah,
to
I
find
mean,
out.
yeah, we made you guys wait 15, we'll give you 15, how's that?
send out for a pizza.
Why don't you,
Yeah.
on this one part of this here, why don't we put a timeline to it?
Well, we got 60 days. I mean, you know, you got 60 days to come back and see
Oh, I
how you
didn't
got.
sound like that earlier.
Yeah, no,
Well, you had asked us to come in 30 days, and that's what we're doing.
That's what I said, then we said 60 days later, so you're still in the ballpark. This is what we wanted you to come back and say, hey, what are we doing? So now we know what you're doing. You got 60 days to try to resolve it, and then at that point you say, well, that didn't work, so we gotta go to
Plan B.
1, 2, or 3, type of thing. So this part of the discussion is exactly what the board wanted, and I applaud you for that. That's very good.
So we go in 60 days?
Yeah, that's what the motion was.
Original motion.
The original
okay.
motion was 30 days plus
What I'm
60
trying-
after
What
that.
I'm trying to say is, do
Yeah.
you need more time? Because it sounds like this can be
I-
pretty confusing, that's
For
all
the
I'm
title
saying.
part of it, I don't think so, but,
Yeah.
to
Alright.
the extent that, there's an idea, that's beneficial, and you folks view as beneficial, that springs from the whole bike path thing, because this, the bike path probably needs a lot of both real estate rights as well as other facilities to make it work.
Right.
This property is a fairly sizable property along that rail or electrical corridor, and so there's an interface there. And Eric, I know for sure, is interested in making that interface work.
Yep.
So the ideas that Greg were outlining a minute ago are ones that he's pursuing in discussion. And so certainly within 60 days, not only will, I think, the title question become much clearer to me than it is tonight.
Yep.
And we can certainly update you on that. But whatever further comes from that, working with the trails people and/or Grid.
And the only reason I'm bringing this up for, that
Yeah.
trail they're talking about,
Yes,
it's gonna be between 5 and 10 years out. So that's why I'm saying, don't lock yourself in a short period of time or whatever. I don't think these people on this board wanna hear it going out that long, but I know
No.
that trail end of that thing is, it's gonna take a long time to get that going. Now, maybe your end of it for that piece of property could be resolved in 30 or 60 days, that's all. You know what I'm trying to say?
yeah.
Well, it's certainly a step in the right direction. I hope what you're saying comes to fruition, because that would certainly take the heat off everybody. And,
On that issue, yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's all the board wants, is to come in compliance. So if that would solve it, that would be tremendous. But,
Yeah, to be straightforward with you, as Greg indicated, the amended decision is one that our client has some difficulty with.
yeah,
And so at least for placeholder purposes, he's decided to protect his rights by asking a court to review it.
Yep.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that case has to go all the way to or through a litigation process. To the extent that discussions
Yep.
like this can
Yep.
find ways to resolve it, then you short circuit. the
yeah,
re-
I don't have any problem with that at all, but you gotta appreciate the town's position and the board's position is that there are some violations there that shouldn't have happened, even with the first approval that was done in April, I think, or March. So this didn't come up, and I might have used the wrong expression, late to the game, but I didn't mean it in a derogatory sense.
No.
But this has been going on for quite a period of time, and I don't know exactly why that type of stuff even got put in there when the original application and all the discussions were for cold storage. So, like I said, I think that in researching our ordinance, the law,
Yes.
it's gonna be incumbent upon the building inspector, who also is the zoning enforcement official, to stop all work until this is resolved as far as the violations, i.e. the 5 that shouldn't be there. So that's what we'll instruct the inspector to do post haste.
I understand that's your position.
Yep.
We have a disagreement,
Yep.
and hopefully we can find a way to bridge that through dialogue and consensus.
Okay.
Would you like to speak with us again in the 60-day timeframe we're talking about?
Yeah, we would like you tomorrow.
Oh, do you wanna?
If you draw a conclusion, I think.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
or
mean,
before that,
we meet every
Come
30
back,
days.
you
I
know.
think the next meeting is April 1st, April Fool's
So-
Day, so you can come in and fool us. hopefully, with some updates, that would be good.
I was only talking about the one
The building.
topic we were on at that
Yeah.
point. I didn't, that's all I was talking.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Yeah,
He
obviously
you
there's other
understood he was
issues.
just talking about the
Right.
building, bill, yeah. But the other five, I think it was 5 issues on 5 buildings that had to be out.
I had
But
4.
I think Mike is very, very clear, and I think we're very clear. We utilized a section of the law to issue cease and desist versus the recall, which would have shut everything down for 2 years. And I think that, you know, we were under the impression that we had an agreement and was gonna move forward. So I'm a little taken aback by the attitude that we're gonna go to court on this, because, you know, you know, if that was the case, then if it said it's either all or nothing, we probably would have gone with the recall, because that's what it probably should have happened. It should have happened probably months ago. But we've been strung along here and trying to make things work, and so I for one is a little surprised with that type of attitude. But you're certainly welcome to that, and but the bottom line is that it's gonna have to stop work on everything, and then somewhere along the line, there's gonna be fines assessed for each day that the violation exists. There's 5 violations, that could be a substantial fine.
Your biggest stumble block with this is sounds like it's the 4 violations or 5
I think it's
violations.
5.
That's-
I had 4, but.
Is it
Okay,
4? Well, it
whatever.
could be 4, I'll look it
That's my
up.
So that's your
recollection.
biggest
I'll look it
stumbling
up.
block at this point, out of the decisions it's made so far, is those 4?
Well, there's other issues, but, I mean, we're certainly willing to talk to you about it, but we do have a tight time frame to at least get our foot in the door for judicial review, and that's the 20-day deadline.
I mean, I think the placeholder word is the operative one, which is, there were proceedings, there was discussion, there was testimony, there were hearings and so forth, and then there was a decision made in closed session, and so there was not an ability to work it back and forth and work out any.
Hold on, no, what do you mean closed section?
Well, it was a closed
It was deliberation.
closed deliberation.
That's right.
And
But we
number-
opened up for discussion, we let Larry talk, Larry, did we talk?
Yeah, but not when you started making conditions.
Yeah, but we
Closed
talked
the
about everything,
hearing.
yeah.
You
Well, yeah,
started with
but,
your
yeah,
conditions and we didn't have
but you see,
opportunity.
the time to talk was the meeting before that. We had a special meeting, what was the first date, January? What day was it?
First one in January.
Then we had a special one 2 weeks later, so, I mean, it had already ended. I mean, you know, they had the whole night to talk about it, and so that's the way it works, unless other towns do it differently, that, I mean, you know, my 30 years' experience, that's, you know, when the public hearing ends and the discussion ends. Do you know?
Ultimately,
there were a lot of surprises in the written decision.
Oh, okay,
On this side of the table.
yeah, okay.
Obviously, I was not surprised, but
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
folks who were here were surprised.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
so we'll try to define those surprises for you, and to the extent that there's a way to work them out, we're more than eager to do that.
Well, we can do it on April 1st, but we don't want an April Fool's jokes.
Okay.
Although I could do, I am a jokester, we might have figured it, you know, we could be here and then, you know, we could tell you, everything's all hunky-dory, you know, but that's probably not gonna work.
So basically, in layman's terms, you guys wanna go back and work on those 4 issues some more, and you wanna work on a
We
couple
would
of-
like to, Eric Harper is out of state now, he's
Right.
not available, and we certainly want to keep a dialogue going.
Right.
No question.
Well, so
No, no.
what, I mean, I thought it was pretty clear that night, and Mike can reiterate, I thought it was pretty clear that that's what was gonna be done, and so, are people still there? Have they been notified? Have anything happened, or what's the deal?
We've had some discussions with our tenants, but as I said, even if we wanted to get them out within the 30 days that you had,
It was
voted on,
45.
we went from January 17th to tonight, March 4th.
we were using 30 days for coming in here on the plan, that's why I used 30 days.
But like I said, it wasn't a surprise to anyone. I mean, when you had a business there that was a non-conforming business in a residential zone, and you put in a 110 towing company out back, doing repairs on, you know, and storing boats, I mean, that's a pretty big stretch. So I'm not sure how, I'm not sure how, you know, you're coming to a conclusion that we, being the board, overstepped by a time frame of 45 days when, you know, it shouldn't have happened at day one.
The initial, I think what he's trying to say is that the initial leases that were written out of compliance with the special permit on file. So,
No, I disagree that they were, I don't think they were. I don't think, you know, the 110 towing,
no, what I'm saying is that we gave the special permit initially. Then the leases were written after that because it was just a conceptual plan that he was giving
Yeah.
us. He had just purchased it.
yeah.
So the leases were written after the special permit was given, but those leases were not in compliance with the special permit. So that
Correct.
almost negates the lease to begin with.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, again, we didn't necessarily agree that you couldn't have certain types of storage on, inside, outside, I mean,
Well,
which now,
you
now
know,
all outside.
with all due respect, it's not, it's the board's decision whether or not you can, and then a judge would have to either agree or disagree with us. But I mean, it's, you know, I'm not sure, you're not a judge, are you?
No.
Okay, so, I mean, that statement to me is a little bold. Okay, I
I'm just
mean,
wondering, do you actually have a copy of his original application from last March?
Yes,
Yes.
You do.
Have you read it?
do.
Because it's all storage.
Yeah.
And so, actually, I think that it says, state the present use of the business, former lumberyard storage, state proposed use. The property is to become the location of the SD Business Park Association to be managed and owned by the applicant and utilized for small business support storage.
Yes.
So, we as a group saw that and said, oh, you know, that's actually a pretty good idea for the town, that could be really helpful to the residents, and, because we do have a lot of contractors and stuff who work here in town, and so, we actually basically approved his, you know, his, based on what he gave us. So to come back and say that basically, nothing was done according to the application, and then now everyone's upset because we
Because the
are,
board's, because the
Right, and,
board
like,
has
I don't get it.
has stepped in and enforced the ordinance.
we gave him what he wanted.
Yeah, and then,
could've
and then
asked
he,
for anything.
and then you're telling
See?
the board
Well, again, we had
that you
discussed,
wanna go to the court to, I mean, this is what he said.
what we had discussed is, you know, whether there's a
Who's we?
computer. In meetings that I attended with the
Okay.
Oh,
board.
okay.
We had, you know, issues were raised, well, you can't have someone there with a computer, you can't have a desk there. I
Yeah.
mean, We made the,
Well, I'm
Argument
talking
that those were
about, I'm
accessory-
talking about the boats and 110s, you know, some things could have done right away. I mean, the outside storage of boats, and I know that the Conservation Commission has issued a fine and a daily fine on those two floats out back. They've been after him since October to move them. They haven't been moved. So why? You see, you know, what's the reason that those haven't been moved?
I haven't been attending the Conservation Commission meetings, so I can't speak directly to that.
But
Is that not storage, though?
it's not this type of storage that was allowed on that particular, it's outside storage.
Yeah.
And I believe the two floats are in the conservation,
No,
But-
just from a zoning standpoint, that sounds to me like storage.
but the board had determined, and here again, I'm not, you're not a judge, are you?
Under the original permit. No, I'm
Yeah.
an attorney, I have
Okay,
been a
okay,
judge,
right,
but
yeah,
not,
okay.
no, I'm
Well,
not sitting as one
The-
now.
Yeah, okay. The point is, the board had determined, based on what Kathy just read, that it was gonna be inside storage, okay?
That-
And
Where does the original
and
permit?
there,
does the
and there wasn't any, there
permit
wasn't
say
any
that?
boats to be stored, there was never any discussion about boats. I mean, let me ask you a question.
I think that's an open question.
Well, let me ask you a question.
you may have answered it.
When you come to the board and tell us you're gonna have contractor storage,
Yes, sir.
what type of contracting business would you be doing with those boats that are sitting down there?
It's a small business, and it's storage of materials associated with small business, just like the
No,
lumberyard
no,
was.
I'm gonna ask you it one more time. I don't think we got a lack of communication here. I'm gonna ask you one more time. The boats that are stored, there may be 6 of them down there. Would you read that again, what that use was gonna be? Contractors?
Yeah. Number 8, state proposed use. The property is to become the location of the SD Business Park Association to be managed and owned by the applicant and utilized for small business support storage.
Yes.
Okay. And what was there before was lumber, contractor lumber. This is a residential zone. Section 106.6 of our zoning bylaws requires that the continued use of that property be either less than or equal to what was there. There was never any outside storage of boats on that property in the 40, 50 years that there was lumber there,
Yes.
but lumber didn't have motors, didn't have oil, didn't have antifreeze, didn't have any of those things that I'm aware of. I've never bought any lumber, and I used to build houses, so I'm not, I'm not an authority on what type of lumber was there,
To be
but,
fair about it, I don't think that application and the original decision really well answers whether outside storage is either allowed or disallowed, to be fair about it.
but if you read the minutes and what he said, I mean, he clearly said, and I tell you, we thought it was a great idea. He came in and sat here and tell us contractors need place to put their ladders, to put their equipment, and we're gonna utilize these buildings for all these contractors. I said, it's a great idea. And the next thing we know, there's 110 towing, working on cars and equipment. And they went in there and they put, they come in and they come in, they put lawn companies, sheet rocked it off, put office space, time clocks. That's not what it's, so this isn't, hold on.
Yeah.
So this isn't new. This, I mean, you're indicating that you had 45 days. No, he shot himself in the foot. I think that the applicant, i.e. Eric, clearly did something different than what he said he could. So I'm not sympathetic to the fact that you got leases down there on something you shouldn't have leases there to begin with.
And Chair,
Go ahead.
I think if I read between the lines, what's going on here is they're sitting over there with one idea and how they read it, and we're sitting here with one idea, and that's why we're here. And I think this is gonna go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I hate to
No,
tell you.
really. No, because we're gonna move on, because I
Well,
guess,
I don't think we should get into boats and
no,
everything.
no,
It
no.
just doesn't make sense.
well, no, it's a
It
time.
is clear what, they have one version of what went on.
Yeah.
We have one
Yeah.
version, and we're gonna pick this thing apart and on and on and on.
No.
We need to either find a happy medium, or we need to,
Well,
it's unfortunate.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
but
saying?
right now, we're in agreement with the building, so the only thing that we're not in agreement is with the other structures, and your position, I'm not sure which I should be talking, is it Greg?
Yes.
So your position is that those buildings are gonna stay, those businesses are staying?
We're willing to discuss it, but to protect our rights, we are going to ask for judicial review of it.
Now, does that mean you're filing an appeal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. Then, I guess I'm all set. You got any other questions? You got some, Dan?
No, I think if they're gonna appeal it, then we just, go along with what you say, that,
Yeah.
you just stay everything in pending appeal.
Yeah, we'll instruct the building inspector to write a letter and shut everything down, and then I guess it would be a court issue, but if you'd like to come back on the other issue, next April 1st, and we can put you on the agenda to give us an update as to, do you think you have some stuff by that, Sandy?
I missed.
By April 1st?
Yes,
You can come back, give us an update? Yeah, okay.
absolutely, yeah.
All right,
And
we'll work on that.
I'll just reiterate that while we need to file by early next week the
Yep,
appeal,
not a problem.
that also on April 1st, you'll have a chance to have looked at that, and perhaps there'll be some issues, hopefully more than not, that you'll understand our perspective, and vice versa, and there'll be some sort of way to see clear of that, because we're not looking to litigate this. We're hoping that the communication can continue, even though that proceeding has been initiated, just to protect. So,
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
that's the spirit of it.
Okay.
If the board takes the position that is gonna be a cease and desist,
Yeah.
what happens with the operations down there now? I mean,
Stops, everything stops.
So how do you go and enforce that these 4 businesses that are in there operating cease? I mean,
Well, they're gonna be in violation, and they'll be fined. For every day that the violation
so
exists, there'll be a fine.
So we have a code
assessed.
enforcement, not a code enforcement, sorry to say.
A
it,
zoning
we don't
enforcement
have
officer.
one. we have
The zoning enforcement
okay, so
official,
you
yeah.
clarified that
yeah.
with me, okay.
So, it'd be subject to a fine of every day, and then, it may, we'll talk about, as soon as you file your papers, we have legal counsel, we'll talk to them, and if he instructs us to go down and seal a property, then they'll be totally, we'll take that type of action, and there won't be anyone going in, so that
Yeah,
would be.
we're not trying to escalate.
Yeah. No, I understand, but the board's position is that there's a violation, and it should have been taken care of, and it hasn't been taken care of, so, if we have to shut it down and placard the buildings and, lock the gate, whatever, so it may come to that, but, I hope it doesn't, but it may come to that, and, but having been around this for a long time, and I'm sure you have, you realize that there are fines that are accumulated every day for each violation, so that, the fact that you file to the courts doesn't wipe that out, so.
No, it seeks review.
Yeah,
of the
I understand, yeah,
decision.
that's right, but it's still subject to those, and it's
And
a
to go
substantial
back-
amount.
And I'm not trying to be the peacemaker here, but to go back, how I did the last, we talked about, in my eyes, you people are in the position, you need to protect yourself, so you're gonna move forward the way you gotta do, which now enforces us to do what we gotta do, unfortunately. There's no, you can't get to a happy ground there, there isn't. You gotta protect yourself, and in the process of that, this board has to protect itself, so now where are we? We're drawing a line in the sand, and here we are, unfortunately. You know
I
what I'm
wish you
saying?
wouldn't use that expression.
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
not a popular expression right now.
Well, sorry,
I think one of the unfortunate.
just trying to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Put
think
that
one
on
of the
record.
unfortunate, I'm listening, trying to listen carefully to what you're saying.
Yeah.
All of you. And I think one of the unfortunate parts here is that it's almost like the tail is wagging the dog. These 4 tenancies, all of which are relatively minor in the grand scheme of things, which you folks think are a violation of the storage authorization given by the initial decision or the initial permit. Those are components of an appeal, but by no stretch of the imagination, to my mind, are they the main part of the appeal. The main part of the appeal, which I don't think we want to spend the time tonight, I think the papers will spell it out, and we can have a discussion on that, are other things, which is authorizations that the original permit gave, which have been cut back or taken away. Conditions in the permit which are confusing and contradictory and cannot possibly be fully complied with. Provisions in the permit that, for example, make it personal and unassignable, which, as best we understand, were never discussed, were never certainly agreed upon, which fundamentally change the nature of the rights granted by the permit and make them far more tenuous. And to be honest about it, the recall provision in the permit leaves the permit as something which is very unstable, I'll say ephemeral. It can disappear at any given point if a quote written complaint from any source on any subject is filed within town hall, as best I can tell, even if it has no merit. And it doesn't allow the permit holder control over compliance of the permit. In other words, there is nothing sufficiently clear and definite in that permit for someone to say, I'm in compliance. I know that I'm within my rights to do what I'm doing, as opposed to it being
hold on.
anybody's guess, excuse me, just let me finish the sentence, anybody's guess as to what someone else might think, in which case the permit gets pulled. So those, I'm just giving you a
Hold on, let me just tell
very-
you something,
very small example.
You're missing one real pertinent fact. If Mr. Harper bought that property in a non-conforming residential zone, which that is, and came into the board and said, I'm going to operate Harper Lumber Company, all bets are off, not a problem. He didn't. He came in and wanted to change the use in a non-conforming use in a residential zone which now is subject to, and I hope you've read it, 106.6 of our zoning bylaws,
Yes, sir.
okay? Which in part states that the operation has to be less than or equal to what was there.
Not substantially more than what was there, sir.
Yeah, right, okay. So, but that's this board's decision. And you have the right to decision to go, and then the judge will say the board did exceed, didn't exceed, et cetera. So that's where we're at, I guess, so, that's fine with me.
I recognize
Yeah.
that it's within your jurisdiction to make that determination by comparing the old use with the
Yeah.
proposed use.
Just wanna make sure that
Fully
you,
respect that.
that you agree, that you understand that versus.
I understand it, and I.
Because
and
if
I
you came in
appreciate
with the, because the way you were talking was almost like we sort of stepped on his feet on stuff, but I don't think we did. Because had he came in and said, I want to establish Estes Lumber, change it to Harper Lumber, then not a problem, because that's a use.
He
But
would not
want-
have needed to come in for that.
Well, unless, there's one thing he would have.
If it was a change
No,
or an
no,
expansion.
I'm gonna tell you, there's one thing he would have. If he was gonna build that 40 by 70 building, it was an expansion of a non-conforming use.
Just for the structure.
What's
not
that?
for- Not for the use, just for the structure.
Yeah, that's right, but he would have to come to board,
Yes, sir.
okay? So anyways, that's where we're at on that, and if you guys, any more questions? Any? No que- We appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
We look forward to seeing you on the 1st.
Yes, sir.
Thank you now.
Do we need that plan back to record it?
No.
Hold on. Oh, I will sign it. Oh, you want, is there 2 Mylars here?
No, it's only 1 Mylar.
Yeah, let's take care of that.
What do you want to do, sign it?
Yeah,
And get you back copies?
Yeah.
All right, if I take it.
Hold on a second. Now, listen, Bill just asked me, we're gonna take a vote in your presence, so I don't want you to think we're doing something behind your back. We need a motion to send a letter to the building inspector to suspend all work until this is resolved.
Stop order.
Stop work order, yeah. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to stop,
Dan makes a motion, seconded?
pending the appeal. Can we
Yep.
modify the language?
Yep.
Pending their appeal. of
Pending
our
the appeal.
decision.
That's by Dan, seconded by Mike.
Second.
Any discussion?
No sense to
May I,
All in favor?
may
Yeah,
may
go
I
ahead.
comment?
Yeah, go ahead, yeah, go, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In the spirit of not unnecessarily escalating,
Yeah,
stopping all work as opposed to asking the building inspector to take enforcement action consistent with your determinations of violation, there's a big difference between the two.
well,
So-
I don't think you heard what I said to begin with. Larry, you got a pen?
I thought I put one in there, but I brought it.
No, it's just,
Yeah, magic
yeah,
one.
thank you. No, what I said at the beginning was the fact that the town requires compliance with certain elements of town functions to actually have a permit. And when you're not in compliance, then I don't think the permit can continue, so you're gonna have to stop it.
This is your original permit.
This is the permit that we just issued.
No, that's on appeal, so that's not final. The original permit is final. So all those things that are going on the site that conform with the original permit, there's not a basis to take enforcement action against. Only those things that you now think violate the original permit, which are the 4 tenancies that you determine
Well,
should be
I think that,
prohibited
oh, you know.
and should be vacated. So my question to you is why you're not asking the building inspector issue cease and desist orders and impose on those 4 tenancies as opposed to stop work on the entirety of the site. And again, the reason I'm making this comment is that to take an overbroad enforcement action at this point unnecessarily and inappropriately escalates the dispute. And it leads to fire with fire type of response.
Is what you're saying, and maybe I shouldn't talk.
You want a copy, Larry?
Oh,
The people
We'll
that are-
sign 2 of them, then you can have one.
Well, this one the Mylar I'll make copies of for you,
Okay,
because the Mylar is the only one that can be recorded.
that's right,
But
okay.
you can keep
If-
a copy for now, so
If,
you
if
have
you
it.
issue cease and desist orders, what the building inspector did, and he's the appropriate person to do so, relative to the 4 units that you find in violation,
So they,
then we're powerless, if you will,
Yeah.
to allow that operation to continue. Because you've taken into your own hands what we can't necessarily accomplish on our own.
so, to say it in more, as I say, more layman's terms, is on the last decision that we made, and we said those 4 businesses are not in compliance, tonight you come in, they're still not in compliance, we should be issuing on those 4 businesses only. Everyone else down there is in compliance, and we should leave it alone.
I think that's appropriate, but it's for you to decide.
Well,
Is it your position
I'm not
that
sure if that's,
that there's work that is unrelated to those 4 businesses?
There's plenty of work unrelated to the 4 businesses.
yeah, but it's
Those are-
still 441 Main Street, and that's, and when you come in for
Does
a
that
building
work
permit.
support those businesses? You're saying
The
there's no,
percentage.
there's no the relationship to the work being performed in those 4 violations?
Those businesses are self-contained. They're relatively minor, they're isolated, and they're self-contained.
They're
They don't have-
relatively
They don't have
minor.
a functional relationship.
What do you mean by they're relatively minor, the towing company?
Well, I mean, in terms of square footage, I mean, you've got something on the order of 60,000 square feet. These 4 businesses, help me out here, Larry, how many square feet do they occupy?
Maybe 5 or 10 at the most, if it's that much, 5,000 maybe, I don't have my sheets with me.
You got about
but-
10%, if it's that much.
What's the extent of the work going on at the property?
There's no construction going on right now because of the weather. And the only building that will have any additional work is
Okay.
the front building, when the weather improves, and when we resolve the issues on 105, that building will be completed. Mr. Harper stopped all work on that building.
So behind the fence, it's moot, there's no work being done.
Right. There's no construction work at all.
No, I just,
Just due to the
I was
weather.
trying to listen and I didn't wanna
Well,
listen
no,
and sign
those
at the same
buildings
time.
were all renovated. There's
Oh, okay.
nothing that's gonna be done to those rear buildings other than
And
105.
the front building hasn't got any work going on, but possibly could, because he was
Right.
gonna lease it or
Because the
whatever,
permit
Yeah.
says it's 440.
which that was nothing to do with the rear.
I would think so.
That was nothing to do with the rear. That was-
I mean, I guess the issue is, do you wanna stop the whole thing, or do you just wanna stop those 4 conditions?
Yes, correct.
I think his point's.
Well, you know, the thing is, if the permit was a general permit for the whole property, so I don't think you can separate it out. And that was based on a compliance, and it came up at a meeting that we had, where there's I don't know if I can find it, never can find it real quick, but there's a sign-off sheet that the inspector goes through. And part of that sign-off is the fact that there's no violations. So the violations, with all due respect, is for the 441 Main Street. Now, I would agree with you
Yeah, no.
if he issued permits for this building, that building, and this building, that building, but he didn't. For some reason, he issued a permit blanket to the whole property. So in that case, I think the only way you can do it is the whole property issue. You can't have it both ways. You can't get a blanket permit for everything, have a violation, and then say, oh, well, this isn't in violation. Well, it is in violation because the permit that was issued is for the whole 441, everything. Are you following me?
You're talking about the building permit.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is it,
And
Based
are
on-
you directing the building permit to, building inspector to rescind the building permit?
stop work on it,
To stay the building permit?
correct. Because there's violations.
Because 4 uses
Are in
of
violation.
of less than 10% of the structures
Yeah,
are not what you think they should be.
yeah, but you see, the
And
permit,
if you're of a mind to think that way, I think you should instruct the building inspector to scope his enforcement order as he sees appropriate and is within his authority. In other words, you're making his determination that he can only do it in an overbroad way.
No,
Right.
what I'm saying is. that
And I think that's his determination.
Wait a minute. The permit was issued for 441 Main Street.
His
His
permit.
permit.
Yep.
And that was based on a sign-off sheet that said everything was in compliance. Now, that was, I'm gonna just draw on this.
So now your sign-off would be accept X, Y, and Z.
Well, what I'm saying is, had he issued a permit for this, an individual permit, then I agree 100% with what you're saying. Then, because you're 100% right, but he didn't do it that way. He did it the whole parcel, so that the sign-off sheets were based on the whole parcel.
Sir, there is a way to isolate and identify the pieces of those, I mean, the buildings are labeled, the units are labeled. In your own permit, you individually specify which ones they are, so he can do that. This is not an amorphous thing that you can't separate out pieces of. You did it yourself, he can do it too. With all due respect.
There's also a separate permit for the front building,
Separate building permit?
separate building permit for the front building.
So that wasn't part of the general permit.
Wasn't part of the, was originally,
You
but
happen to
then,
have it with you?
I don't know, I don't have the building permit file, but I can get that to Julie.
Do you have it? Do you have it?
I might have it.
I have the permit that you're referring to, but not the one that's Larry's referring to. You want to see the one I have?
Yeah, which one you got?
Sure.
I think that's the general one.
Yeah, yeah.
What's it? Okay.
I do have it. It's not worded that well.
Yeah, no, actually, which one is this, Larry?
I
This is,
believe that's the front building, Main Street, building, suite, whatever, 1, 2,
Okay.
and 3.
what have you got? Is it Sandy? Is that what you said, Sandy?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
That was
Can
the
I call you
original
Sandy?
general permit.
Yeah,
This is the
yeah,
original.
this is what I had, but I had a colored one. And what I was showing, what I was trying to explain, when, Greg, could you come up? Sure. I wanted to show you something. This is what, thank you for, let me look at this. This is what I was talking about earlier. This was the building, locations on the general permit. Okay, remember what we were talking, I said there was a
Yeah.
permit? Yeah, there is no building here.
And I keep talking about the permit.
Yeah, but this
Special
is
permit.
what was submitted for the general
Right.
permit, and there's no building there.
No, but that does say we would relocate the
Yep,
sheds to another site.
Listen, there's no building here.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, so
So we agree.
There was a building that was authorized that wasn't located. The permit, the plan that came in to you folks, that was referenced in the original
Yeah, but what's on here, though?
permit. Well, I'm recognizing
Okay.
what's there.
Yeah.
And if you want me to pull out the special
No,
permit
no.
plan, I'll do that.
Yeah, no, I have that.
And it
No,
does
no.
show the plan, it does show the building there.
Yeah, no, I have that. So you think this here is,
Those are the two different permits. This permit was issued in June of some year.
okay, yeah, what's the date of that?
When did the second?
Do you have this, Sandy, do you have the second permit? Do you have this one?
No, I do not, sir.
Okay. You can call me Tom, please.
Tom?
Tom, yeah, I prefer that.
When did
Thank you.
the second permit come through showing that the building on the plan? Is that something that?
No,
we-
no,
It
not
was
that
the original
building.
special permit, showed the location of B-105.
No, I'm talking about the building permit, because that wasn't,
Mr. Dunn was asking about the special permit showing
Right.
the building.
Right.
yeah, no,
So, let me carry through.
go ahead.
So, he came into the meeting, the very first meeting in April, and he showed the building on that permit,
February, March.
the first meeting.
Yeah, that-
Okay, so my point is what building permit shows the building on it? That's, you know what I'm trying to say?
Larry, do you have,
What the problem here is there's been so much paperwork that's gone through and it's not accurate. It's just, it's
Larry, do
hard.
you have that other, both permits so I can see what you're talking about? Yeah. Go ahead.
The building permit was earlier than the special permit.
Oh, I got you.
Um,
So he
and-
issued a
and-
permit,
And he decided that he's gonna take down 3 sheds, and he said
Yep.
that one of those structures is gonna be relocated on the site. The plan, Tom?
Tom, yeah, Tom, yeah, yeah,
As Tom
Tom.
indicated,
Yep.
did not identify where on the site that building would
Right.
be relocated.
Right.
Then, when he came before this board the first time
Mm-hmm.
and requested.
Larry, what's that other
Section
permit you
1
had there, I saw?
Section 106 decision,
right.
the plan that accompanied that did show the
Right.
building.
So
And so-
somewhere in the building department, probably, or somewhere, paperwork hasn't gone right, because it's no permit.
Well, as a matter of chronology, the location of that building has become defined. And the zoning relief associated with putting it where it's been built has been given. You are correct.
What's that one
the
there?
building
This is
permit
both of them
didn't catch
together.
up with the definition.
Not at all.
Whose is that?
Not
Is
at
that
all.
yours?
But the building inspector got the special permit and the plan associated with the special permit.
Right, okay,
So it does hang together, it's just not as perfect as
Right.
you would want it to be.
right, exactly. So
Oh,
there's-
this
it
is the same
shows,
thing.
it's showing some deficits along the line. There's been deficits and there's
So
been
how do-
some missed up paperwork is what I'm getting at. You know, I'm not saying on your part, I'm not saying on the building department, I'm saying, or this board,
So,
Yeah.
that's all I'm saying.
so Larry, the 6/3/2013, which was actually before
Yes.
before they came,
Oh, yeah.
before you came to the board, because, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the.
That's the general permit.
Okay.
Right.
And then,
And then, so that there are, so you're right, Sandy, you're right. I stand corrected.
Right.
You, I wasn't aware that there was two. I thought there was all on one.
Oh, two permits.
Yeah,
Might be
so
more.
you're right.
no, I think there's only 2.
There isn't one for
So-
a building,
For what building?
for the building that was built.
No.
That was part of the first one with the relocation
Is
thing.
it listed on
which
there?
led
Is
to
it,
all
is
the
it something
confusion.
listed on there?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So it's listed on there about relocating
Where?
that building?
Right, but it
The
doesn't,
location is not shown.
No, it doesn't
It's
say
not
anything about a
shown,
building.
yes, it does.
The wording
Where?
is in
When you
there?
get into what's attached to
Oh,
it.
okay. It's not on the permit, though. Should've been on the permit.
Wait a minute, he's got it
Okay,
wrong.
hold on. So listen, Sandy, I stand corrected, and I didn't realize there was two, so we'll take care of that. You're right,
To what?
two permits. I
Building
thought it was all one, okay, so, yeah.
One for the front, one for the
So,
rear.
what we're talking about is exactly what you're saying. The letter will go to the inspector regarding the 4 businesses out back and not the one out front. One more set on
Yeah,
on that.
I just
Go-
wanted to show
go
this
ahead, sure.
gentleman
Go-
that
Gentlemen. Whoa, whoa, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
he's a gentleman.
Yeah, okay, yeah. We want to quote,
My point that I'm trying to make is if the wording's there and the footage wasn't, that's all I'm asking.
yeah, these buildings will be relocated.
So just read it aloud for these guys to hear,
Yeah.
just if you don't mind.
The woodshed storage buildings, this is, this is June 3, 2013.
So we
yeah,
came in in April?
yeah, he didn't come to the
Building
board
permit
until,
application.
When did he come to the board?
April 2014.
April.
April.
I didn't give you these.
No, those are Larry's.
You stapled them?
Larry Ogden, that's his.
You have a staple?
No, he gave them to me stapled.
Oh,
No, they're not
I
mine.
gave you one.
Larry might have.
Larry took it, I'm sorry.
all right,
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah, I'm sorry,
Uh,
yeah.
This is an explanation sheet that was attached to the application for the building permit, June 3 of 2013. And it states, woodsheds, among other things, woodshed storage buildings. These buildings will be relocated to another area of the site. And it did not say where. And the plan accompanying it showed the woodsheds that were gonna be taken down, but it didn't show the replacement building and where it would be located. So at that point in time, the intention was stated, but the definition on how it was gonna end up wasn't there. Fast forward to the proceedings in front of your board in February of 2014, the plan showing the replacement building was on the plan. So at that point, the demolition had taken place, the replacement had been located on the ground or on the plan, and the construction proceeded along,
You know,
along
if
those
you only
lines.
put it on there, we would have caught it at the time.
He wasn't gonna,
The-
the building inspector's supposed to.
Well, I mean, the 15 feet thing.
Oh,
you know.
oh,
I mean,
oh,
well,
My
But the-
recollection
Go
from
ahead.
that meeting, from that initial
Yeah.
meeting, in fact, I was just looking
Go
at
ahead.
this conceptual plan. The plan that he submitted was a conceptual drawing, okay? And so the way that I recall it was presented was that, you know, he had just purchased the property, really hadn't dug into anything yet, but this was his concept, and that those buildings were existing. So now, me, not having been on the property in a few years because it had been closed down, did not remember that this building wasn't there. You know, when you're looking at it 3 years later and you say, okay, yeah, that sounds about right, that's about where the buildings were, from my recollection anyway, this is my point of view. So, I vaguely remember him saying that the buildings were existing, so I'm now taking that into consideration and saying, okay, well, the buildings are already there, he's just gonna renovate the existing buildings. He never said, I'm going to build another building there. That was never
Yeah.
explicitly stated at that meeting.
And
So,
to
I
go
think-
one step further with that, I asked, is what this what is on the face of the earth today? That's what I asked him. Okay? And the answer was yes. And I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know that that wasn't there. So when it showed up later on in overhead GPS, the listing agreements, and it showed up that that building wasn't there, all of a sudden a red flag came up. Because we asked, the board asked, is that what is there today? We were told yes.
Yeah,
So,
wasn't there.
I understand, no, this,
So
And
if
it
you
actually
would've-
says it right here in the permit.
Yeah.
It says maximum square footage of building area limited to 57,066 square feet, in parentheses, existing buildings as
Yeah.
of March 5th, 2014. So,
Yeah.
all I'm trying to say is that it was never clear to us that, yes, we are gonna take these buildings down and we're going to build another building here. It was just put on the plan and said, there, that's our plan. So, just, that's where we're coming from, that's all.
Obviously not clear enough.
We
Yeah.
thought existing buildings were
Were
gonna, they weren't gonna be
existing.
musical buildings. I mean,
So, the same statement.
it's just in terms of common experience, you
Thank you,
file a
Larry.
plan, you expect the building to
is this
move
is this
around.
yours? Or these are,
I
these are
don't,
two? We'll take-
Obviously,
I don't.
obviously the communication
Okay,
was not
thank you.
perfect, and there was a misunderstanding.
I'll make, I don't know if I can
To
make a
me,
motion.
buildings aren't movable unless they have wheels on them.
Well, unless you say they're gonna be replaced at a different location, which is what he said.
Well, it wasn't clear. I can tell you, I mean, you know, I just want you to know that we're not flying through the seat of our pants. We're based on what was submitted to us, and I don't think that it was clear that what was submitted is what was actually there. So you weren't, like I said, you weren't involved in that, so, yeah, we'll give you, we'll catch you. All right, well, listen, I think that we're gonna strike that motion and
I'll make a new motion.
make a new motion. Go ahead, Bill.
I'll make
Oh,
a-
yeah, go ahead. No, hold on.
Can't.
Dan, you make a motion.
Well, I wanna clarify something.
Go
If they're gonna file an appeal for a judicial review, I mean, if we make a motion to enforce the existing cease and desist, it seems to me that it'd probably be joined in the, it could be joined, you know, I mean, how would he,
That's all right.
so, okay.
Yeah, that's all
All
right. I think that we have to do it. I mean, you have to do what you have to do, the board has to do what they have to do, and it's not, this isn't personal, this is just the way it works. You guys know better than that.
Right, I mean,
You-
we
like I said,
waited
you're
till
not-
now when it's
You're not a
not
judge,
in
you know-
We have
compliance.
discussion or we can't?
you're not a judge. We're gonna make a motion, we'll have a discussion here.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so do you wanna make a motion now?
A motion to enforce our prior,
Oh, yeah, only
our
on
cease
the-
and desist order.
On the four, yeah, because as Sandy had indicated, there's two different permits, he's right, so it'll just be on the four.
Just for clarification,
ahead.
excuse me, there are actually 5 items.
I thought
that
there
are-
was 5,
There's
yeah.
5 outside of
Yeah.
the,
Building.
Building.
the building.
I thought there was
the
5,
land
yeah.
issue,
I only
so
thought four,
just
did I
make-
miss?
If you actually look at the second page,
Yeah, I thought it was
there's
5.
actually 6 listed, and the last one is the building setback. So there's 5 above that, 107B, 108, 110, 115, and B 101. So there's 5.
Let's see, yeah.
They
1,
keep saying
2,
4, I was just clarifying.
No,
that
you're
there's
right.
actually 5
It's
items.
on the second page, yeah, it's
So
5 of them.
So the motion would be to, motion to, seek enforcement of our prior decision on the 5 violations.
Yeah, and
Excuse me,
and we can, the violations,
Oh, what's,
I still have four
Oh.
tenant issues.
B 107 point,
Right, looking at the
107B,
second
Truly Green Lawns,
B, yeah, truly, and then.
B108, the boat storage,
B 108,
110 towing,
the boats, B, yeah, 110, B 115, the sprinkler office,
and that's it.
and
B
B 101, which is,
That's
What-
not a
what are you
use
gonna-
violation, is it?
oh, right,
Yeah.
you're right, I'm sorry.
okay.
B one
It-
oh one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
it's
you're
just-
right, yeah.
Is it only-
It's more
it's
of a
four, okay.
clarification as
You're right.
opposed to, yeah.
It's just a statement, you're right.
Okay.
You're right, I'm sorry, I was just counting the numbers, I just wanted to make sure that if we were taking the vote, it was the accurate.
Yeah, it's 4. So let's do the vote on the actual motion,
Each
motion
one?
of B, yeah, 107, is it, it's B 107, or is it 107B? Which is it?
B 107.
Okay, B 107. Do you have that, Dan? Or do you want to make the motion, Catherine?
No, I just, you can go ahead if you want to. There's your list,
Go ahead, Dan.
You can't just do all 4 together?
motion.
Well, no,
The
we-
motion to enforce B one oh seven?
Yeah, 107, 108, 110, 115.
It's B107B,
Second
by the
motion.
way.
What's that?
It's B107B, by the way.
Yeah, okay, B 107B, B 10, I didn't know if that was a typo. And, B 108, B 110, B 115. And the motion is to enforce those cease and desist. Any discussion? Go ahead, you got a discussion?
No, I guess not. I mean, I did, but I don't. I mean, yes, I'm in agreement with enforcing it.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. I would like to give the applicant a chance, I guess, if we could. I think this, from reading between the lines here, I think there's some leases involved here that he needs to break the leases, and I would like to ask the applicant, do you need time to break those leases? And see if we can't nail a timeline to this rather than, that's all I'm trying to do. I know he's gone beyond, and and us as a board, we have gone beyond what have you. Maybe we can't do that. It's,
Yeah, I don't think, I think it's a little late for that.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
I'm sustaining.
Who seconded it?
Tom seconded. Tom, you seconded? Did I motion? You seconded, all right.
Dan, you seconded, and then Dan made the motion, seconded Mike.
I seconded.
Discussion,
It was a joint
4, Bill abstained. We'll see, thank you guys for hanging around again, and we'll see you,
April 1st.
thanks for clarifying that. I really thought it was 1, hey, happens. You know, it's this,
You
old
want
age.
this back, Larry?
You can keep it.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, wow.
Wow, wow.
That's what you need to sign my laws.
There you go.
Yeah, I know, that's, but I know, I.
Oh,
figured
you
had
know,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
You go to the registry with red, blue ink and
Well, I didn't wanna take the only one you had, you know.
I bought a package. Thank you.
Inspector. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving right along.
Motion to take a 2-minute recess.
Yep,
Good night, all.
thank you now.
All right.
Okay.
Anybody second?
Second, go ahead. All those in favor? Go ahead.
Yeah.
We got a timeout.
Do you wanna go off there? or-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Off
we
air,
can. Yeah, you could just put on
I'll
stereo.
just mute everything.
If we wish for.
Oh,
My sheet.
okay, we need a motion to re-adjourn.
I'll motion to re-adjourn at 9:15.
Okay, seconded Mike Woods, all those in favor? Okay, the next thing on the agenda is a discussion on feedback from all boards meeting. I think, Bill, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
in the all boards meeting, and it's been going on now for a couple of meetings, and just what we went through here tonight, exactly what we just went through. There's gotta be some enforcement here somewhere. We just sat here for, I don't know, 45 minutes or so.
Yep.
And, we had to just put a, stop order on 4 businesses that weren't in compliance. It's only gonna be as good as it gets enforced, am I correct?
Correct.
If there's no teeth in the tiger, it might as well be a pussycat.
There you go.
So we-
Meow. Just go
as
meow
a
at
board-
people that don't comply, meow at them.
at a board, you sit here and you make these decisions, it's frustrating. I'm sure it is for all you guys.
I
Meow.
second that.
Okay, so I did a little investigating after the all boards meeting we had on Saturday, and there's been some discussion between the conservation with some issues they're having, and I know we just went through some issues tonight with the zoning board of appeals, and the town of Groveland does not have a code enforcement officer. A code enforcement officer, he would take care of the conservation issues. So if the conservation found a problem somewhere in Groveland and they needed to file something, the code enforcement officer would go out and take care of that. We do not have one in Groveland. We have a zoning enforcement officer which watches and abides our bylaws. When our bylaws are not being upheld, we now put penalties like we just did obviously tonight. I don't know, I know he has to, for this board, go and do what he has to do. He has to, tomorrow morning, go down there and do what he has to do. The zoning, the conservation, he doesn't have to abide, and he doesn't have to send those fines out, because it's not his job. That would fall under a code enforcement officer.
Doesn't the Conservation Commission enforce those?
I think they
They're
would.
looking for someone to do it. I'm not gonna speak on behalf of them, but I know from conversation, they're trying to find someone that could do that, but we don't have it in Groveland. We are, luckily, we're protected here on this board,
Isn't that up-
because we have a code enforcement officer.
No, we have a zoning
Well,
enforcement officer.
That's right, you're right, I said
Yeah,
it.
zoning enforcement, which enforces the zoning bylaws.
Right.
So that's why we're gonna have to,
And our decisions.
in our decision, that's correct.
In our
The
decision.
special permits, when the special permit that we issued originally was for storage only, and all of a sudden, those businesses came in, it probably, at that time, should have been a zoning enforcement officer who stepped in and said, wait a minute, this is the special permit, and this exceeds that, but that didn't happen. That's why we're here today. But Julie, can you do a letter tomorrow, and I'll sign it, and we'll get it right over to him, because I'm gonna be gone, to the end of the month.
When are you leaving?
Tomorrow morning at 4:00, no,
but
Sunday.
to
Sunday
go
morning.
back, not that I wanna harbor on this all night, to go back to what, the reason we're having this all boards meeting, is this is the exact example. I asked these two parties in front of us tonight to show us the paperwork, and the
Yeah.
paperwork was very conflicting.
Yeah.
Very conflicting. So, there was 4 different things he came up with that was very conflicting paperwork. So, how do we get this straightened out in the town of Groveland? It seriously needs to be straightened out,
I don't-
because we're gonna keep going through what we're going through
Well,
tonight.
what would have solved a lot of the problems here is if you had a plan submitted that was final. It evolved.
Yeah, several times.
There was an evolution of a plan. It was illusory. And that creates the ambiguity. And that's what lawyers love to argue about, the gray. So the thing was a moving target. And, so, you know, you have to follow that all the way through, but it's very confusing. And again, you know, I've said it before, bad facts make bad decisions. So, you know, if at the planning phase, you have to submit the documents. These are the real ones. And if you want to file an amendment, there should be another procedure where it has to be, you have to formally go through the building inspector and file an amended plan. okay? And they should be labeled, this is Plan 1, this is Plan 2, so that you know what copies are superseded. So you're not looking at the third copy, and you're saying, well,
What if that's the
is-
first one?
is this the final?
Yeah.
What version am I working on? Should be, the versions should be indexed, and they should be approved for submission. It shouldn't just be, you just come in here and hand us whatever one you want.
Well, I think that
So there needs to be a screening on the application.
well, clearly, in the site plan that was submitted with that building permit, did not have that 40 by 70 building on it.
It wasn't there,
It wasn't there.
wasn't there.
So,
And the
so,
permit didn't have the size on it as
no,
well?
no, no, so I'm a little, well, no, I'm not, but I mean, you know, these guys, these two attorneys are telling me that, yeah, oh, yeah, it's very clear. Well, it's not very clear. Having been a building inspector, and having knowledge of looking at that stuff, it clearly is not on that
Right.
application.
And the other thing is, you know,
It wasn't on there then, it's not on there
say,
today.
you know, you say it's a conceptual plan. They have things on there, you know, a proposed residential complex, like, ignore that. Well, it shouldn't be on the plan,
Yeah,
because
that's right.
it's confusing,
That's right, it was.
because it's on the actual
Now,
plan.
and part
It's
of the.
And they
confusing.
moved those buildings
Well-
to make that
Well,
residential.
So if, let me, follow me through. So if that was the conceptual plan, well, wasn't the concept to have a building
well,
where he put it? So
I'll-
it kind of contradicts.
well, also, those three buildings that they tore down, okay, were open sheds. Not only were they open sheds, I think I might have brought it up once, but it.
They have full foundations and everything.
No, the factor is, what you're talking about, Dan, is 100% right. There's some residential areas that's gonna be later on. Those
buildings are in the
buildings
way.
were over the line.
They were in the way.
They were over that line, so,
They had to move them.
so, yeah. I mean, you know, they were over the line of what they're gonna do, the residential and the other one. So to say that we were doing this and moving these elsewhere, you know, you're only talking partial, because part of it was on the other property anyways.
The only part of this whole night that scares me
What scares you?
is when you saw the two attorneys sit there, and they can see in the paperwork where all the, not I'm talking on this board, I'm talking where they can find, they know where all the wording was wrong, or you can see what they, where they know, what they're gonna do. They, you know, I
Then
think
I-
we pulled enough information out of them, but I think they know there's been some
Well,
issues.
I
there's
think,
issues.
but I think that the board was very clear, and I can tell you that the.
I'm not blaming this board.
No,
I'm
no,
just
no,
saying.
no, but I think that the decision that we made was based on state law.
Oh, I
and-
agree.
and our ordinance, so I'm pretty confident that if we went to the, if they take it to a court, that we will prevail. I'm not worried about that.
Okay.
But at the same time,
And they need to come back
at
here.
the same time, it was my impression that they had no intentions of stopping the
No, they
leases.
just got an extension of 45 days.
Yeah, they got no, there was no, I asked if they had, you know, well, we had some brief discussions. I mean, there's no eviction notices, nothing, I mean, they didn't say, I mean, so that obviously,
Well, they wanted to use their 20-day appeal period to go ahead and
well,
file.
no, but, listen, they knew at the meeting on January 17th what had to happen. It was very clear the night of the vote, what had to take place, and nothing took place.
And
However-
They accepted it. At least
I
that's what I
thought,
thought. They
Yeah,
to
they
me,
did.
to me, you know, we were talking, we had a dialogue back and forth, am I
I think
totally out in left field? We had a dialogue going on with these guys, and it
I
appeared
think
that.
we had 4 meetings. I think we, you know, covered all the issues, and there was nothing left to be said. They participated, so I don't think.
Yeah,
I
but,
think reading between the lines, there's some issues with some leases right now. I think that's what.
well, I don't know.
That's-
We might have just bought them some time.
That's not our issue.
That's not, yeah, that's not the
It's not
board's.
our
I know it
Yeah,
isn't, I
yeah.
know, I
It's
agree,
not our issue.
Okay.
I agree. So he has 45 days to come back again?
Well,
on that
the-
issue?
well,
That
no,
one?
well,
he's
no.
got 4 weeks, less than 4
He's
weeks.
coming in, he's gonna come in, on the other ones.
Yeah.
The original was 30.
So this one here, 0 time, this is done.
Yeah, the 4 that we're gonna do, we just voted on, we'll give a letter to, he has to put stop work orders on them. They got to cease and desist immediately on those. But the building what we originally said was to come back in 30 days and tell us what you're gonna do, which they did. Now, I mean, I don't know. I'm familiar with what he's talking about because I happen to have property in another, you know, in Maine, which has a bike path, which has the railroad tracks. They took
But
one
they'd
set
have
of
to go
steps.
back and prove that Estes gave them a right-of-way, or gave them a piece of land for that.
Well, that's what I
railroad-
said.
For the railroad, and
well,
that's gonna be, for them, that's the
well,
burden for them to
That's right,
prove.
but like I said, you know, it depends on whether Estes on this side gave part of it originally, or it came from the other one, and it was a
Right.
whole thing, so.
It's
I
their
mean,
burden to prove
Yeah, they
that.
got proof. So he said in 60 days they'll do that. So at the end of 60 days, then the second plan was, the third plan is to remove you know, they had their plan, first plan was to try to buy the land. They couldn't do that. The second plan is they're gonna try to,
Establish who owns it.
yeah, establish a derelict fee statute. So, then the third would be to
Move 5 feet of that.
move 5 feet. So they're on track. If they come back and said tonight, and I mean, I'll say it, I'm not gonna, would be transparent. If they just said, look we got a problem with the time, can we have more time? Well, they didn't say that. They just said that we're gonna go to court and get a.
They did, they started out.
They
that.
started right out with, we're gonna go to court because we don't like this. Oh, so fine. Well, I didn't get that impression at the last meeting. We talked and it went fine. I thought,
You thought that would've came up at the last meeting?
yeah, I'm really surprised because we talked about everything and.
Well, I think there's somebody else on board now.
Well, I don't know, but it appears that, and they're making accusations that we didn't let them talk. Yeah, they had all kinds of talk. The fact that this other attorney wasn't on board isn't the Board of Appeals problem. He came in late to the game and wanted to have some input. Well, that's not the way it works. Now his input would be before the judge, which is fine. But I think that had he come in and had the same attitude with the other structures or the other businesses that they had with the moving the building, I think that the board would have been more receptive to working with them. But to come in, the very, very first thing he says is, we're gonna file with the court.
See, judicial review,
Yeah.
that's their right. and,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
sooner they do it,
The better, yeah.
Can I make a request?
Go ahead.
put it to
Can we
rest.
move on to the all boards thing so that we can,
Yeah, we can.
Go
thank
home.
you.
Bill-
That's what we started, but Bill
Bill's gonna
Bill
talk, yeah.
derailed us.
Yeah, don't derail. Any more on the all boards?
No, my point of the all boards is how we need to come up with a plan which is only good as the enforcement officer to enforce it, but we need to have a better plan on permitting. That's what we need. We need to get a better plan. And I'm not
Well,
saying it's this board, I'm
yeah,
saying
no,
the
no, yeah,
town
no.
needs a
Well,
better plan.
well, you know, this probably isn't politically correct
Sorry.
to say what I'm gonna say, but I'm
You
gonna say
running
it.
for selectman?
No, I'm not running for selectman. I'm not running for anything. But this isn't politically correct. However, in the years that I have worked in several municipalities, and I've talked to the municipalities that I used to work in, and my buddies in other municipalities, the experience of the people I'm talking, if we added them all up, is probably well over 100 years. I mean, the people I've talked to, no one, and I mean no one, has issued a general permit for a project.
Yeah, blanket one.
A blanket permit to just go in and do whatever you wanna
It's like
do.
giving a blank check to,
That's right.
like, you know, the,
Yeah, send your kid in the candy store and say, buy whatever you want, you know, and no limit. Sky's the limit.
giving a blank check to a politician. or
Yeah,
something.
I mean, so,
Again,
so
and
the
I agree
bill.
with you 100%.
That's what made our job that
Harder.
much difficult.
Right, and I
Because-
agree with you
because of that.
100%, but that's why I was trying to go where I was going by saying we need to build in something to stop that from happening.
Well, but it's
But
not.
it's only as good as the person
it's-
issuing the
it's-
permit.
Yes, yeah, it's not,
It's up to the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
hire, they fire, it's
Yeah,
up to
so, yeah,
them.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
not-
that's
yeah.
personnel management.
yeah, it's not the Board of Appeals. We do,
Not
it
our
like
job.
like Dan said,
Not our
we
job.
do this, we give it to him. If the person, him or her, whatever, if they decide not to, then it's a selectman issue that has
It's not our-
has to bump up the selectman to try to enforce it, but. And Dan was right, what was it about the pussycat?
Well, if there's no teeth in the
Yeah,
tiger, it might as well
right.
be a pussycat,
That's
just
right.
meow at them. I
Right,
mean, we
yeah.
passed the, we,
On the all boards, getting back to that.
Yeah,
you like that, huh?
I like it.
You know what wasn't, brought up
Speak
in
up.
front of the board.
40B.
That wasn't brought up at the all boards meeting. Wouldn't that be treated differently? I'm sure it would.
Are you talking about on this same
I'm
project?
talking about the all boards meeting,
Yeah,
because that's what we're talking about.
yeah,
We're putting together a procedure.
correct.
A procedure would be different if it was a 40B, wouldn't it?
Well, what happens
That's
is,
something
yeah,
else that we need to work on.
no, no,
Right, but what happened in the all boards meeting, not to disrupt
Go
you,
ahead,
Tom.
go ahead.
What happened in the all boards meeting is we were all discussing it, the meeting was abruptly shut down, there was a subcommittee formed, and now that subcommittee has to meet.
Right.
You-
But
you-
the boards have to individually send
Go-
in,
Right,
okay.
never
we-
happened.
The zoning board, we did not send in something for 40B.
No, no, but, no, this is only, this is the whole thing is a procedural, to streamline the process.
Right.
In our application, on the front of our application, there's a two-page list of what has to happen, what you have to do. We've already done that. The zoning board of appeals already has that. There's 2 pages of procedures to come before the board, and that's already done. That's in addition to the form. So, that's what the, all boards was to try to do the planning board, get the planning board to do one of those, get the building inspector to do one of those, and then put it in some type of format, i.e. like this one from Merrimack Valley. What I'm baffled even right now, whereas Merrimack Valley has best practice models for streamlining local permitting, they have all the information. Why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah, why do it?
But for some reason, the wisdom of the selectmen and I voiced it.
Why don't
several
we
times.
adopt that plan and then
Well-
tailor it to our needs, you know?
That's what we started out in the beginning of that
Well,
meeting.
I mean,
And where
I
did you end up?
ended
That's
up that.
subcommittee.
Who derailed it? You got subcommittees for subcommittees.
Well, I mean, be that as it may, that's what happened. I mean, this is already made, a phone call could probably say, hey, can you modify this to fit the town of Groveland? And I suspect it could, but, on the wisdom of the selectmen, select people decided that, they didn't wanna do that, so, that's why we're at this stage, that's why we got blanket permits issued,
What-
vague permits, and that's why we're
What we
gonna
just
end up in
talked
court
about,
again.
if you took this one here, site plan approval, site
Yeah.
plan modification.
Yep.
This one here from the Merrimack Valley, this thick,
Yep.
this one's this thick.
Well, no, it-
hold on,
it
let me
would
finish.
be.
I know, let me finish. This could be the town of Groveland, not as complicated as
Yeah,
all this.
no, 100%.
Very simple.
That's right.
It's all we were trying to get, we never
Yeah.
got there.
No, that's what would
Never got
happen. See, Bill, what I'm saying to you is that if the planner at this Merrimack Valley would say, oh, Groveland doesn't need this, and it would be that. It would only be probably half of
I
that.
know,
Right.
I didn't hold it
But
up.
what
Thanks.
I,
didn't know
what
where it's
I
from.
Yeah,
It's not
got
good.
on the telephone and I talked to them,
You missed it.
Yeah?
this is what they're saying.
Who's this?
Merrimack Valley,
Yeah, what'd they say?
talked to them this morning.
Yeah,
They come up with a packet,
No, I wasn't.
kind of an overlay.
yeah,
And like the lady explained to me, if you go through this booklet right here,
Yeah.
it talks about like Amesbury, it'll
Yeah,
talk about
yeah,
Salisbury.
yeah.
They will not make up a packet per se for Groveland,
oh, okay.
they won't.
Okay.
But they will give you kind of an overlay of how the towns around here do it.
Yeah.
Is what she was saying. They're not gonna come up with a packet just for
Okay.
Groveland.
I'm familiar with agencies in the past that I've worked
A
with that
town
did.
planner would do that?
Yeah. Well,
Or
but,
something
but-
like that?
Bill, why did you need a subcommittee on it?
I didn't need a subcommittee. I didn't want a subcommittee. I wasn't for a subcommittee.
Could the BOS have just said, we're gonna use this, bang?
they could have, but they chose the latter. Yeah, they could have.
Could have been over by now.
Yes, it could have.
So let's kick the can.
So, but Bill,
Yep.
now, let me ask you, so let's say they do put this packet together, who's gonna take the ownership of actually putting the packet together?
Bill is.
Well, now it's gonna be the subcommittee.
Okay, so the subcommittee would create
Nope,
the
nope, what's
packet?
gonna happen is, I don't, listen, I am so confused on this issue, I don't know. But all I can tell you is
And
how,
what are the qualifications of the subcommittee?
Yeah.
I can tell you
They
coming
bake
out of
good
it,
brownies here in town? I mean, who's on, I mean,
I wasn't
coming out of
invited to
it.
the all boards meeting.
coming out of it, it was said that
Jesus.
we're going to come up with an overlay, help me, you were there.
Yeah. Yeah.
An overlay.
An outline.
It's gonna, an outline, it's gonna come back before the all boards meeting, and they're gonna put the stuff into that overlay.
Take a trip around the world.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know
mean,
if
I
no-
mean.
I don't know. I
the-
haven't had
I
a
mean,
meeting. I
the-
don't know.
I mean, the basic information is right here. It wouldn't take very long to go through this, pull the ones that didn't apply, and write the
That's
name
the
of.
same with this one, so what
That's right.
difference does
Just
it make?
line
That's
out what
right.
you don't like,
That's right.
redline it, make
That's
a
right.
red line
That's right.
copy out
But,
of it,
but,
and redline
but,
it.
Do you think that they can make it a little more complicated?
well,
All right, good.
I rest my case. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, it appears to me that it's more basic than that, because even when this new so-called streamlined system is implemented, you have to have someone to do it.
Kathy,
And
Yes.
that's an issue.
let me just try this slowly.
Go ahead.
I know I'm on camera, and
That's
he
all right.
calls
Please
me slow and everything else. But if the zoning board had two pieces of paper, that if I knew I needed to go to the zoning board, and it was on here, and the zoning board had their two pieces, planning board may have three pieces, health, whatever, if they had submitted them, and they all went into this packet and got stapled, and we put a cover page on, it might take you 15 days to get a permit or whatever, we might say, don't expect to get it in one night, Town of Groveland, that would have been what we're looking for.
That's right.
Okay, so now, we take this other piece of paper that was submitted, right here. Number one, a lot of people were irate that it said mandatory. It should have probably said required, not because mandatory sounds like,
What that is a checklist.
It's a
That's what
checklist
I
from
was
the-
referring to.
right. So you don't go telling someone it's mandatory, because we're not a dictator at town hall, we're trying to be friendly. So you maybe put require in there.
Really?
Right, but at
Isn't
any
that
rate, my
oxymoron?
point of this
You must know
sheet
different
was,
people.
again, my point of the sheet was, is to try and let the people know
What's,
what needs to take
what's
place.
mandatory?
Okay,
I don't, what's right?
Okay,
Okay,
so
just
coming
checking.
out of tonight's meeting,
Oh, my God.
There's a distinction between mandatory and required,
hold on,
One's
coming
nicer.
out of tonight's meeting, I am going to go,
one's like the pussycat.
and
Yeah,
I am
that's a
going
tight
to
one,
say,
Go ahead.
I am going to go in, and I'm going to say, make a motion, not here, at my next meeting, that the building inspector needs to obtain and come to the ZBA meetings. Reason for is hopefully when we have these situations, he's here, he's involved, he understands it.
You
What
know, that
happens
is,
is-
that is
hold
a
on.
great idea.
Hold on, let me carry this through, I'm slow. So, I've been
Doesn't act.
got a little bit of problem because, trying not to say in public, what you're not supposed to say, but our,
He doesn't need to
he
attend
doesn't
every
need to
meeting.
attend every single one
I
of
think
these
he needs to be here
meetings,
for,
because he doesn't wanna come in for, say, a shed,
no, but he has to
or
be here,
whatever, you know what I'm trying to
he
say?
has to be here for anything that he has to send before the board, which
Right.
would be a special permit for,
A build, a second means of egress added without the setbacks.
in-law apartments, he should be here. Any type of special permits, like this special permit for change of use, any of those type of things, he should be here, because he should be the one, we should say, instead of us looking up in the ordinance, we should say, you're the zoning enforcement officer, what is the town's take on
Okay.
that? That's what I did as a zoning enforcement official in the towns I worked with.
All right.
I was
So-
that person that they said, what does the town ordinance say?
Let me carry my,
And that's why we
my
should have him
second part
here.
of this through, cause
Bill, I agree with
I'm
you.
losing train of thought.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, okay, cause I'm slow.
So I understand.
All right, so-
I gotcha.
What I have been asked,
You're gonna
I
make-
have been asked to come to this meeting, and I have been asked to you guys, what would you consider him coming here, what kind of meetings? So, I guess a roof, what was discussed, a roof is ridiculous, you don't have to make him come here
No, no, no,
for a
no.
roof. So,
Special
what
permit.
kind,
Roofs anyway.
Special permits.
okay, so, listen, I gotta
Yeah,
write this.
Special,
Spo-
special permits.
per- so one
All
would be-
special permits,
all
he
s-
should be here.
All,
When there's someone comes before the board for a special
Special.
permit, he should be here to answer questions.
okay, I
With
got,
the exception, maybe, of the new businesses, some of those we're getting,
Right.
those special, like the dentist and the, he doesn't need to be here for those, right?
this is what
I mean,
happens.
The massage
This is
therapy
exactly- no,
place, yeah.
This is exactly this is what happens when you're in a meeting, not you, Kathy, but this is what happens, and it starts, and it's like, I'm not gonna, I can't say it.
Bill,
I-
the building inspector should come here when you need a special permit to expand a building or do something related to a building. I I'll give you an example, back in January, I went before a ZBA in a town,
Yep.
okay, to add a second means of egress to a building that wasn't there. For years and decades, there was an apartment with no back door and no
Right,
way out.
Right, right.
Okay, so the building inspector was at that town meeting, and the ZBA chairman said, well,
What's the
how
ordinance
come,
on that?
how come it wasn't there, building inspector? And he said, it slipped through the cracks. So, in cases like that, you need a variance, because there wasn't an adequate setback, but there's an exception to the rule, because it's a fire safety issue.
Right,
You're
right,
not gonna
right.
put the staircase in there,
Right.
and people die, you can't, you gotta build the staircase.
Right.
So, there's an issue where there's a building permit that needs to come from ZBA because it hinges on a variance.
Right.
Because of setback, you wanna reduce the setback.
Right.
So that is a variance, but.
Right.
But you're talking about Maine, so let me.
No, you didn't have to say
Why,
Maine.
but I'm just gonna tell you, in
But
all
it-
fairness,
but
in
it-
Maine,
but
code
it-
enforcement officers go to all of them.
But it applies here
All of
too.
them.
Well, he's got a month notice, he should be like, this is on the agenda.
He
You
can
have
call.
to be here.
But-
No, you
but
don't
what I
have
was
to be
gonna
here.
say-
But
It's
have,
What
but,
Mike just said.
but
let me just-
having the building enforcement officer here, we can clarify things.
Exactly.
But,
We can prevent misunderstandings
just
by
said.
asking, how did this happen? Why did it happen? What was the communication in your office when the permit was applied for?
Yeah.
We don't have that behind-the-scenes information that
Yeah.
might be relevant to us rendering
It
a
should be here.
decision.
okay,
Right.
right, okay. So, all I need to do, we cannot tell the building inspector to come or not to come,
Who's he work for?
the selectmen.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can.
I'm not saying we, I'm saying this board.
No, no, no,
I'm not saying
okay,
me,
okay.
I'm saying, I'm talking
Oh,
as on the
okay.
ZBA.
I didn't know what we would.
BOS could add it to the job description.
BOS can do it.
Well, I can't talk right now.
Okay,
about
don't
that.
talk
I'm not
about
there,
that.
I'm
I
here.
can make the suggestion,
Okay,
the
so
B,
my point that I was trying to say to you, that Mike just went on is.
Tom, I
do
think we could recommend that, right?
Yes,
Oh,
whatever you
absolutely.
guys come up
We
with,
can
I
ask the
go
Board
back.
of Selectmen, we
Okay.
can ask the Board of Selectmen, we recommend that they have the the code enforcement officer.
Zoning enforcement officer, present on all special permits,
Okay, so you guys are in favor of all special permits?
yeah.
Okay, and done,
Well,
okay.
with the exceptions of those businesses that we were talking about, like the gentleman who came in here, the,
Pre-existing transfers, you know?
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So,
you know.
now you go back into, you can't take.
Well, what he
so wait a
should
minute,
do,
let me
he should,
finish.
he should call and ask.
Let me finish.
If he
When,
thinks.
when we have one of those come up, our secretary knows or whatever, talks to the chairman,
He
can
could-
she say?
Yes.
Not applicable, you don't need
That's
to
correct,
come?
that's correct.
Okay,
We-
so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say all special permits, some may not be
Well,
required.
well, what happens, Julie calls and says, hey, this is what's on the agenda. And if if it's one of those, what you're talking about,
Yeah.
which would be
Right.
the guy that does the boat.
The fire
The fire and
inspections,
stuff,
but-
I'd say, hey, look,
As an
just
example.
let the inspector know he
Okay.
doesn't have to come back.
Okay.
Because
'Cause I know-
Cut and dry.
I know our, I don't know if I can say,
Don't,
doesn't
Say whatever you
want to.
want.
Yeah,
Okay,
don't,
you
don't,
can't.
don't.
Public.
Okay, so, there's certain meetings they're gonna come to, and there's certain meetings they're not.
Yeah,
That's all
well,
I'm saying.
but I think that we should, right here, take a vote to ask the Board of, BOS, the Board of Selectmen to instruct the building inspector to attend zoning board meetings relative to special permits.
I
so
got
that-
it.
So that he could,
I got it.
and variances, yeah.
variances.
So that we could get like Dan says, the background, which, you're 100% right. Had he been here the night that this whole 441 came on, we'd have had a.
We wouldn't be here.
We'd have solved
We
a
might
lot.
not have gone down a certain direction.
Yeah, we'd have put solved a lot of things way back when.
Okay, is there anything else?
The right
No.
hand needs to know what the left hand's doing.
I agree,
Yeah.
Bottom line,
That's it.
I
That's
agree.
Three.
that's it.
That's it. I like that.
So we're all in favor, that's what I will go back and present.
Okay. So he'll be here April 1st?
I'm only one.
So let's just put the recommendation.
he's the messenger, just give
Okay.
him the message and we'll see what
Slow
happens.
message. Is this gonna be a slow message?
No, it's gonna be fast.
Who seconded that motion? Did we actually take a
No,
vote or we
just-
just talk about making a motion?
You're gonna make a motion?
Make a motion
You
that
just
the,
made the
You
motion.
just made the motion.
I'll second Tom's motion
Okay, I'm
to,
making a second. All those in favor? Okay.
Aye.
4 abstained. You abstained.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah, he's abstained.
all right,
4-0. Okay, what else have we got?
Three.
Any other information on that board we wanna talk about?
on
You
that
got anything
board.
else? On all boards, anything else?
I wanna talk about something.
Go ahead.
Wait, on the all boards?
I think it's related.
Go ahead.
Watched the planning board, meeting the other, day. And, we talked about the zoning bylaws being revised. And, I guess there aren't any zoning changes. So,
Well,
it seems to be, a sub battleground here in town is the, non-conforming pre-existing, so maybe it's a grand opportunity to Groveland to take a fresh look at existing businesses that have been in town for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 80 years, and maybe rezone those areas as business use, so that you don't end up with battle after battle over
the uses.
over the uses. You could prevent a lot of disagreements just by simply putting it to a town meeting. And let's just say, you know what, for instance, there's been a gas station here for, 100 years, and it's in a residential district. Well, you know what, it's a gas station, so why don't we just say that that's a gas station spot in a business district and just change the zoning on it?
The only problem with
But-
that, I think that's spot zoning. I don't know that you can do that. Now, what you can do,
What do you mean spot zoning? You.
One lot's zoned residential,
what
one
you
lot's
can
zoned
do,
business.
you can do, some of the municipalities that I've worked for have what they call
The-
contract
But
zoning.
there's a way to bring it up to what reality is, and okay.
Well, yeah, but not really, because
Well, you
it's
can
all
do-
based on a comprehensive plan.
Okay, so you do
What the comprehensive plan
so you
said
do
for
the
the town.
comprehensive plan.
Yeah, well, then that's a process. That has to be done.
But I think we're missing the mark on that by submitting the bylaws to the lawyers,
Well,
that there's
yeah,
no zoning
Yeah,
changes
well,
in it.
let me, I'm glad you brought that up, because let me bring,
And the other thing is,
That lawyer left
Mr.
this.
Freer was at that meeting, and he mentioned that the ZBA didn't have much input into it, so I'd like to have some more input into the proposed zoning bylaws.
Well-
Because the matrix was prepared by
yeah,
people
yeah,
other than us, and I wasn't in agreement with all of the matrix in
okay,
there,
well,
so.
let me stop right there, because I'm gonna tell you exactly what happened.
It was, you know.
Relative to the matrix. I had an
It
occasion.
wasn't my work
Wait,
product.
I know, hold on.
And I'd like more input on
I
it.
think we're supposed to.
And
Wait,
I,
wait.
that is why I tried to get us together with the planning board
Yeah.
way back when.
Yeah.
But-
We had I said,
Yeah, but it was-
please, let's
but-
get together,
but-
let's talk about
but-
it.
but that was already
And
made
then-
up.
I understand. However, that was our opportunity to look at it and say, we don't agree with X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, and I did
we were
that.
all told
Yeah,
that it doesn't matter because
yeah,
it all needs to go in front of the public, and so we're not gonna even
I
give
know.
any input.
that's correct. Now,
But I don't agree with that.
I agree.
But
Now,
the,
let
but
me-
the
hold
way
on.
I understand it, hold on, Tom, the way I understand it, it's supposed to be looked at by the town council and come back and let us review it before it's
Yeah,
finalized.
but-
That's why it's been postponed
Why didn't we
for a
have
year.
input into it before
wait,
it
wait.
Well, I
went to town
agree.
council?
We did.
You're gonna play
We went to the
you're gonna play
meeting.
Went
ping
to the
pong
meeting.
with
We
it.
were
Hold on,
there.
hold on.
You're gonna
Let-
play
let-
ping pong with it.
let me just tell you, that I know what you're talking about, the matrix. I had an occasion to work summers at a town, in Maine, which was population 8,000. I stopped down the other day and I got their zoning ordinance, because I wanted to look at.
Pretty
the-
close to what we got.
Yeah, we're about
Size-wise,
6,800. So what I wanted to do was to check the so-called matrix, what was showed to me in the lobby when I said it's like 5 or 6 pages. I says it's too much, and the person got mad at me.
It's too restrictive.
Very restrictive.
It's just
So,
like a-
so I've given them a copy of this. It says, this is a town equal size to Groveland, Massachusetts. This is what a matrix should look like.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be more than a page and a half.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be 5 pages of every conceivable thing that you can think of, because when you do that,
Micromanaged.
yeah, when you do that, there's a gray area that's not allowed to exist. And if you don't have a gray area to allow businesses that come in, or something that may fit easily, then you've shut the door.
The draft excludes businesses that
Excludes
might be
everything.
perfect
Exactly, it does.
However,
for the town.
the function of this board, as we've all discussed, is to define the gray area.
That's right, but there isn't
That's
any.
that's the point, is what's black and white, and then everything, if it's in black and white, then they don't come here.
Yeah.
If it's gray, it comes here.
In a town, yeah, I think that in a town the size of 6,000 people, you don't need 5 pages of matrix.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
I don't know if you, I don't know if you've seen
No,
what I'm
I
talking about.
understand that, but-
There's like
but-
5 pages.
Right, but the fact that, first of all, it's already gonna be out of date the day it actually gets voted in, probably,
Yeah.
or maybe the day after. Okay, so
No.
it's evolving all the time.
Not,
So
not.
you have to do it
You
periodically,
have to
but right now
have
we have
general,
no input.
you have to have general categories
That's
of
right.
accept, of permitted uses within each business
Exactly.
district.
And it doesn't have that.
What was,
It's
sub-
very, very restricted.
what's
Because
being
we
sub-
didn't give our input.
no,
Didn't
no,
make
no.
any difference. It was,
No,
it was,
we weren't listened
an
to.
agenda
We
there.
weren't listened to.
yeah, there
You
was-
know
I went-
something?
I went to the Board of Selectmen meeting and asked a few questions, and the answers back to me were, do you understand septic systems?
yeah.
Give me a break.
It flows
Let me-
downstairs.
You're trying
let me-
to figure out what the bylaws are gonna be and why they are the way they're drafted, and it's basically, this is what's drafted, and you take it.
I'm gonna ask everyone a
Yeah.
question. Do you guys think that Groveland should have business in it? Do you think
Yes.
business is good?
Yeah,
Yes.
Everyone thinks business is good?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, business is good. What's business gonna do? Business is gonna come in, it's gonna help us with our tax rate.
Do they have children in
correct?
schools?
No, they don't. They have buses in front of them picking kids up? No, they don't. So what I'm trying to say is you take,
Generate income?
it does. So
Pay
what-
taxes?
Create jobs?
Yes, it does.
Create
So I'm-
jobs?
Yes, it does. What I'm trying to say
I don't
is
like business.
the
Do you like
matrix
business?
that-
I don't want
if
business. You want
make this
business?
10-page matrix, what's that gonna do?
It's all,
It's gonna scare business out of town.
but they're
and
not
we're not a
allowed.
very
Already
busy-
doing it,
Huh?
by charging them $650 to come in front of here.
Yeah.
There is no, and it take 3 months to get in here.
But Bill,
You're already doing it anyway.
Bill,
Sorry,
Right. So what I'm trying to say is, we're not business friendly.
I am.
You are, but the town isn't.
but the town itself,
Well,
Not
you know,
business friendly. Never has been.
you got too many tree huggers that like spending money, you know? They
But
just
if
wanna
you-
just buy up all the land and kick the businesses out. You
as a
gotta stop
potential
it.
tenant, as a potential tenant, to wait 3 months to get a permit from the zoning board and be able to get into a space, that's just too long.
It's pathetic.
Right, I agree with you.
It's un-American,
No, so
you know?
we had a golden opportunity to add our input, and we didn't.
I disagree with that.
Didn't we change that
I
like a year and
disagree
a half
with that.
ago to make it more efficient, that it wasn't 3 months?
Yes,
Ca-
that
Kathy,
part of
I
it, yes, but
disagree.
they're still coming here.
I-
They still have to procedurally come here, you see what I'm saying?
I disagree with that, you know? I tried to ask questions about the draft zoning bylaws, and it's just, I get, you know, sideways answers, and no one's gonna answer any questions.
What should have
with any-
happened is it,
It's just, you know what, the planning board's running with the zoning draft bylaws. I'd like more input into it. They say they're gonna have some public hearings on it. I'd like to be at some of those public
It
hearings.
should be citizen,
but it should, I'm agreeing with
Drawing it.
Kathy, it should have been probably, we should have had one more intake on it before it got to where it is now.
There probably
We
should have
had
been
one more
public meetings
intake.
on
We
it
should have had
before
one
it
more
even was
input.
drafted and sent to the lawyers. You
That's
send
right.
it to the lawyers, and it might as well be the final draft. You're wasting legal fees.
Right, so what, we didn't have
It
them
should have been
enough
hashed
input.
around in several open meetings about what the people of Groveland want it
Yeah.
to be, what changes they want. Listen to people that it affects their property rights.
yeah.
You
No,
have property rights under the Constitution, and then you got a document that says you need a special permit for every business use in town. That violates the skid case.
Well,
know,
but the way ordinances are usually promulgated is that you have a, lack of a better word, a committee, and the committee is formed to rewrite the ordinance. Well, this particular case was a committee of one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what was that?
Huh?
What was that?
Why was that?
No, what committee was that?
The committee of one. One person on the planning board wrote it.
Yeah, Mr. Freer,
Yeah, well,
okay? I'll say his name because I was at the Board of Selectmen table, and I asked him a question, okay, you get districts where you have a two-family, one district is, 10,000 square feet, another one's 20,000, another one's, whatever, 16, something like that. And I say, why is that? Why do you have, well, you got older neighborhoods, and, well, maybe we should take a look at that, because that was written back, when the dinosaurs were around here, roaming around. So why don't we take a fresh look at what it is?
that's what a committee would do.
That's what a committee would do.
Yeah.
And I get a flippant answer, well, do you know about septic? Well, I have one in my backyard, it's a big concrete box, and I flush the toilet and it goes in there. So I'm trying to talk about zoning, and I end up on a septic system subject. So that's
Yeah, I
not
don't know,
productive.
I don't know what the solution is,
It's-
there, but I
it's-
have brought
it's-
this up.
It's tough to deal with serious issues when you got one person that wants to run the show. okay?
Yeah, Kathy, what do you got?
Okay?
All I wanted to say is that,
What did
as
you wanna
part of
say?
this plan, we have to start somewhere. And if we don't give our input, we're gonna miss the boat. Everyone else in the public is gonna have their input, but we're not. All I'm saying is that we should, for issues that we keep hearing
You
over and
you
over
were
again.
sitting in the lobby, I think, the day that I read that. And I
Yes.
said it was awful, and the next thing I know, I'm being attacked,
Yeah, pretty
verbally
much,
attacked
pretty
by
much.
the person that wrote it.
I agree that the public should have their opinion.
No,
But
but- no,
I
but-
am also part of the public. I'm
Yeah.
also a tax-paying citizen
Yeah.
of this. I may happen to be on the board, but I also have an opinion as a member of town.
Yeah,
As
well-
do
well-
you, or you.
Well, I think,
We're all
I think you need to
members.
go to the
But the problem
BOS
being is,
and discuss
you
it.
said it a few minutes ago, we had our input, I guess that was the day we had our input, and now it's gone beyond that.
But it was
And
written
now it's
prior to
already
that.
gone where it's going to come back. If we have input, do you think it's gonna go back?
It was written prior to any
I
discussion.
understand what you're
Why
saying.
have lawyers
I
review it before
understand
the
it.
public even talks
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the generalities of it?
Exactly, it should have public hearings.
You should
before.
have a brainstorm hearing where you kick around ideas and then you start narrowing commonality of what you're hearing from people.
That's how it's done.
Central themes. You start with a broad base of ideas and you say, okay, we heard from all these people and this is what
We come up with.
the consensus is.
That's right.
We're gonna go in that direction
That
with
didn't
it.
happen.
And
It didn't
my-
happen.
And my point was is that the zoning board, this group, should also put in some input, meaning, based on issues that we've
we
heard
had-
You're
that were
right. You're right.
ambiguous
However-
in the
No,
zone.
Kathy, you're right, but you're missing one point.
We fall on deaf ears.
It was already written before they even wanted to talk to us.
It was,
I understand.
it was,
So, but that was our opportunity to say, you know what, this really doesn't make sense. It really should be this way.
But
These are the
we
the
weren't
cases
given the
we've
opportunity
heard.
to change anything,
it
believe
was
me.
already
It was
preconceived.
pre-done.
It's ill-conceived.
It was-
It
it
needs
was
to
done.
go backwards before it goes forward.
This is what it's gonna be.
It's
Don't
gotta
bo-
start over.
Do not bore us with any facts, and that's how it happened.
The only thing I'll say out of the end of the conversation, we can end the conversation.
Tom,
This town will never have business in it. It will never be business savvy, and it will never have a good business tax base. Our taxes are gonna go up, up, and up until something's changed. And I'm in agreement with Kathy said, is we didn't put our input in, we should have maybe stood up, and we didn't know where it was going. We
Yeah,
didn't-
but-
you
yeah,
know,
but
it-
Bill,
And I understand what Tom's saying.
it was already
kinda done before.
Before they gave it to
The
us.
decision was already made, I
Yeah,
guess.
it was already written before they gave us for any input.
But I think what Kathy's point is, she's trying to say was we probably should have jammed up
Well,
in there.
it should have had a public discussion, like Dan says, that's how you do, you start out like this, with all these ideas, and then you bring
I
it
tried
down to
having an
here.
all boards meeting.
But we didn't, it wasn't done, it was drawn up and say, here's what we propose.
Yeah, it was somebody's
And I
homework
asked the-
assignment and they present it, next thing you know, it's at the law firm.
I asked the question at that Board of Selectmen meeting that day, I said, well, who designed this? I did. Was there public input? No, I wrote it up. Well, that's not the way you do it. I mean, I agree with Kathy, I mean, she's a taxpayer, like everyone else, Mike's a taxpayer, did you hear anything about this? Were you involved? Were you asked or involved? No, one person took it upon himself
Yeah.
to write this matrix up and said, this is what we wanna do,
Yeah,
and you're
and-
right,
and-
they sent it to the town council to review, without any people in town
Yeah,
looking at it.
I asked one question and I'm on the topic of septic systems. It's a joke.
So I think it's incumbent on the BOS to take care of this, and we're gonna put, our burden's gonna be on you,
But-
and we want April first that
I'm
taken
not,
care
I'm
of.
not the BOS, I'm one of the BOS.
Well, we want you to take care of it, because,
Everyone's coming down on me hard tonight.
if you don't take care
That's
of
why
it,
you don't go on these boards.
if you don't take care of
I
it,
quit.
you're gonna be sitting over there
I
next
know.
meeting.
I probably will.
Okay, listen, this is the minutes, we're gonna review that, and then this one here is the,
One was January 21st, there was a few things that were added to it.
okay. All right. What's this, the February 4th is, all right, that's the one where the guy came in and, yeah,
It's a special one.
that was the easy one, yeah, yep. Okay. Okay, now, let me just read for the record, we have two, Julie, we have postage stamps for $9.80. We have Eagle Tribune for $428.40. So these are two different issues. And then we have Julie House Administrative Assistant for $269.90. So, any discussion on those? Nope. Any discussion, Bill? Any discussion, Dan, Kathy?
None.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept these three as submitted,
Second.
seconded by Mike. All those in favor? Okay, we can sign them on the way down. Bill won't be signing them. Okay. Okay, so we just need those 2 minutes back. I mean, yeah, the
Are we
minutes.
signing?
No, you know. So we got the minutes. Make a motion to approve the minutes of January 21st, 2015. Need a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Dan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll sign that one, and I passed that other one down here. The February 4th, I make a motion we approve the minutes of February 4th, 2015.
Second.
Second, and Mike. Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor? 4 zip abstained. Okay. I think we had a pretty good discussion here. I'm sure we might not have been politically correct, but I think that,
I have big shoulders.
well, I think that,
I'm tired of the politically
Yeah,
correct.
that
It's
doesn't
not
get
truthful.
anywhere.
It's insincere. It's a mega trend in America that's
Yeah.
just making phonies
Well,
out of everybody.
I think clearly, if we'd have had the inspector here back in October,
I agree.
we
I agree.
may have, that goes the other way.
Oh.
We may have resolved a lot of issues that night, and we wouldn't be here the way we are now.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why
Okay,
I'm trying
I
to do what I
need,
gotta
how about a
do.
motion to adjourn?
No, I have one more thing.
Oh, one more thing, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
How many people do we need for April? I'd like not to be here if you can live without me.
Well, we're gonna have these guys here again. It could be a good meeting. I mean, I don't know, it'd be, you know,
How many other board members have you got? Just Jane?
just Jane, but this is important. I mean, this is gonna be, we're gonna be discussing this stuff. You know, it's important. I understand, yeah.
I'm a CPA's tax season. It's
Yeah.
just
Oh, yeah.
burnout.
So if you had Jane, Mike.
Yeah, but I mean,
All the snow, I'm backed up.
It's
I'm
tough because you got the history of knowing what's been going on.
Yeah.
2 weeks
8
behind
months.
on everything.
yeah,
It's
well,
just-
you'll have to work Saturday and Sunday, that's all.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no week, basketball's over, so
My
get over
union
there.
contract says, 8 to 3 or something.
Yeah. No, it's important because of the issues that are
Can you
pending.
pass those down?
So if Jane shows up, you gotta, you still need
We
me.
still need, yeah, it would be best if, we've been trying to,
Anybody discuss they don't need me here?
no, I think you should make it, so. So we need a motion
Guess
to
what,
adjourn.
Jane? If you sat in a chair and didn't say anything, we wouldn't need
How
you.
about you
Yeah.
push the meeting up? We're
What?
gonna be here till 10, can we go to 8?
Well, yeah, I mean, we could start it a half an hour early if you
Yeah,
want, and we could
want.
start, if you wanna start earlier.
No,
Oh,
no, I need
Okay.
to,
Start later.
I need to start late. We could do
Okay.
10 o'clock till
Yeah,
midnight.
no.
Yeah,
There
that's
we
a
go.
good thing.
No. Okay, let's get a,
Twelve.
The other thing, you
Twelve-
won't have me.
no,
12 to 2?
yeah, no,
12 to 2?
no.
Huh?
I'll second that.
All right, he'll second that. He'll take a
Right.
motion, second,
no, no.
12 to 2. It'll be a different day.
And then
We
that's
need,
Sunday.
a motion to adjourn. Kathy,
Motion to adjourn at 10:05 PM.
10:05,
Shit.
Second.
second and Mike, all those in favor?
All right.
Okay, we're all set, Chris, thank you.
I might be sick in April.
You can't be sick, 'cause it's-